Chapter 237. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 237. I will head to Beijing in 3 days. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 237. I will head to Beijing in 3 days. Han Qinhu and the others shook their heads. On the other hand, Yang Junlin's expression was a little unnatural. Supreme Yi. You can understand it as a hidden sect. Ancient martial arts naturally refers to ancient martial arts. It is the wisdom and crystallization of the ancestors. However, with the development of the times, many inheritances have been broken. Today, ancient martial arts are almost extinct, and there are some forces or sects that have been passed down for hundreds or even thousands of years. They possess many martial arts that have been lost, but these people cherish their own treasures and are unwilling to take them out. Some even isolate themselves from the world and do not eat the food of the world. There is a hint of anger in Yang Junlin's expression as he spoke to this point. These people think that they control extraordinary power and look down on us mortals. They think that we're ants, so they won't come into contact with us. They even call their place Shang Santian. Yichen came to a realization, but he did not really care. No matter how powerful martial Dao was, it could not compare to cultivation. Bai Zhan Yuan was an example. Seeing that Yi Futian was not bothered, Yang Junlin said seriously, "The people of Shang Santian have been practicing martial arts since they were young, and they have been nurtured with resources. Coupled with the high level of martial arts cultivation, you must not underestimate Supreme Yi." Yichen nodded. Yin Nanfei, on the other hand, asked in confusion, "Junlin, we don't even know about this." "How do you know?" "Drink your wine." Yang Junlin shook his head slightly, unwilling to reveal anything. Upon seeing that, the rest did not ask further. Yichun, on the other hand, took a good look at Yang Junlin. He secretly guessed that Yang Junlin was most likely from Shang Santian. All the top 10 powerhouses on the Heaven leaderboard in China were defeated by a young man. Even Yang Junlin, who was ranked second on the Heaven leaderboard, was defeated. The news swept across the entire Chinese martial arts community like a tsunami. It spread to the Chinese community, overseas, and even the entire Southeast Asia at a terrifying speed. Everyone was shocked by this news. They knew how powerful Yin Nanfei and the rest were. It was fine that the 4 powerhouses were defeated, but they did not expect the number 2 on the Heaven leaderboard, Yang Junlin, the former number 1 on the Heaven leaderboard, the god of war of China, to be defeated as well. Before they could react, an even more explosive piece of news came. It turned out that the young man who had defeated all the powerhouses on the Heaven leaderboard was looking for the number 1 on the Heaven leaderboard, Mad Southern Yi. After Mad Southern Yi appeared, he killed him. It was said that the battle was earth-shattering. That night, countless people were shocked, and they once again deeply remembered a name. Mad Southern Yi, number 1 on the Heaven leaderboard, number 1 in China. Some Chinese martial artists even excitedly shouted, "The Mad Southern is not old. The 6 nations must kneel." Even the people of South Korea and North Korea, who were allies of Huan Nation, were shocked. A North Korean martial artist even entered the Huan Nation Martial Arts World Forum and made a post. Shocking. The number 1 on the Heaven leaderboard, Mad Southern Yi, is suspected to be a descendant of North Korea's royal family. So Mad Southern Yi should be in North Korean. As soon as this post was posted, the Chinese Martial Arts World Forum immediately exploded. It was instantly flooded by countless Chinese ancient martial artists and all kinds of crazy comments. Mad Southern Yi is a North Korean? Tip: please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. Can't you be more shameless? Get lost now. When Mad Southern Yi comes to North Korea with his sword and kills everyone, you'll know which country your Mad Southern Yi is from. These Koreans are just a bunch of flies. They fly to wherever it smells good. Dupu Cottage belongs to North Korea, and the river snail rice belongs to North Korea. Everything belongs to North Korea. How shameless. Appa, I have a green hat here. It should be North Korea's. Countless organizations held an emergency meeting at the highest level overnight. There was only one topic, which was to never go against Mad Southern Yi no matter what, regardless of whether they had grudges against each other before this. At the Martial Alliance headquarters, the Martial Alliance elder, Feng Kuai, stood outside the stone door with his body bowed. He dared not breathe loudly, but he was secretly horrified. Bai Zhan Yuan had been killed. That was a half-step martial venerable. He shuddered as he thought to this point. He was afraid that Yi Chun would come at any time. How were they going to stop him by then? A sigh came from behind the stone door. Where's the unparalleled sword now? He's in Luoyang now. Feng Kuai paused and stammered. There's a family in Luoyang that specializes in forging swords for the army in ancient times. Their ancestor is known as the Heavenly Craftsman. When the unparalleled sword found out about it, he snatched the family treasure by force. There was a few seconds of silence behind the stone door. What happened then? He had heard about that weapon refinement family before. Their surname was Ning, and their ancestors have been forging swords for generations. Rumor had it that they had gathered meteorites and 1,000-year-old thunder peach wood to forge a great thunder sword. On the day the sword was forged, the person who forged the sword threw himself into the furnace and sacrificed his flesh to the sword. Naturally, that was just a rumor. He was more concerned about whether the Ning family would fight back when the unparalleled sword snatched the sword. Feng Kuai said with an unnatural expression. He snatched the sword, but the Ning family didn't do anything. Instead, they wanted to make him their son-in-law. They even said that the sword was their dowry. There was silence behind the stone door at that moment. A weak voice came a while later. There's only a few days left until the 3-month promise between the unparalleled sword and unquestionable sword. Spread the news that unquestionable sword was killed by Mad Southern Yi. Yes. Feng Kuai clasped his fists in all seriousness and turned around to walk out. Coldness filled his eyes. Mad Southern Yi, I'll let you enjoy the limelight for a little longer. I've found you a great opponent. The unparalleled sword had defeated 4 masters consecutively before he snatched the sword. Now that he had obtained the Ning family's family treasure, he would definitely be like a tiger that had grown wings. On the rooftop of a vintage mansion in Luoyang late at night, a young man in white sat with his legs crossed. He was only 17 or 18 years old. He had sharp brows, bright eyes, red lips, and white teeth. However, there was a cold expression on his face. He gave off an unapproachable vibe. There was a sword wrapped in a black cloth on his back. Only the handle of the sword was exposed. There was lightning surging faintly on the sword, and there would be the sound of electricity exploding from time to time. The young man lifted his head to look at the moon. His deep eyes were like stars. Master, where exactly are you? Brother Wushuang, Brother Wushuang. At this time, a lark-like voice came from the other side of the roof. Following that, a girl dressed in black walked over from the other side of the roof. The woman was about 18 years old. Her facial features were exquisite, and her figure was curvaceous. She was a living beauty. Her big eyes were constantly blinking, full of intelligence. Hearing this, the white-robed youth's expression froze, and a trace of helplessness flashed through his wooden eyes. He simply closed his eyes and pretended not to see anything. The young lady walked over while panting. She pouted and said in dissatisfaction, Brother Wushuang, I've been calling you for a long time. Why are you ignoring me? The white-robed youth turned a deaf ear. The girl stomped her feet and said in a bad mood, My dad wants you to go down. He said he has something important to tell you. The white-clothed youth suddenly opened his eyes. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. With a flash, he stepped on the void and landed on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the young girl's sight. Sai, wait for me. The young girl was so mad that she stomped her feet. What a blockhead. I'm already pursuing him, but he's ignoring me. Ning Rulin, have good looks and a good figure. How am I lacking? At this point, she subconsciously paused on her towering breasts. Inside the Ning family's villa, the white-clothed youth looked at Ning Ziyuan, the current master of the Ning family, and said expressionlessly, What's the matter? Ning Ziyuan, who was in his 40s, looked at the young man before him with a complicated expression on his face. He said, You don't have to go to Beijing. He would never forget that the young man before him came to ask for a sword yesterday. It was the great thunder sword that had been passed down in the Ning family for generations. The Ning family was considered a wealthy family in Luoyang. They had never been humiliated like this. Therefore, Ning Zuan attacked first, but he was defeated by the young man before him in one move. Left with no choice, he could only bring the young man before him to the Ning family's old residence where the great thunder sword was kept. The old residence was similar to the hidden sword pavilion. For hundreds of years, to prevent outsiders from trespassing, there were many traps and formations that the Ning family created. To prevent outsiders from entering, there were many traps and formations that the Ning family created. When the formation was fully activated, it was enough to kill a martial Dao master. However, the young man standing before him at that moment had broken through the Ning family's battle formation, the 24 earthly punishments. Apart from obtaining the great thunder sword, he even triggered a phenomenon that caused the thousands of ancient swords that had been stored in the hidden sword pavilion for hundreds of years to shake at the same time. It was the 10,000 swords greeting. Why? The young man in white asked. Ning Zuan shook his head lightly. I've just received news that the sword god, unquestionable Jian, is dead. Naturally, the 3-month agreement between you and him is off. Who killed him? The young man remained calm. Ning Zuan wanted to shake his head by instinct. However, he eventually shook his head after seeing the young man's determined gaze. Unquestionable Jian was killed by the number 1 on the heaven leaderboard, Mad Southern Yi. I heard he was killed by Mad Southern Yi with his sword. Before he was done speaking, he sensed a soaring sword intent exploding from the young man before him. Then, I'll challenge Mad Southern Yi. I knew it. Ning Zuan sighed and said, Mad Southern Yi is number 1 on the heaven leaderboard, number 1 in China. He just killed a half-step martial venerable. You're not his match. Don't go. Although they had only spent less than a day together, he admired the young man before him. He even wanted to marry his only daughter, Ning Ruolin, to him. However, I'll head to Beijing in 3 days. The young man had already left after saying that. Chapter 238. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 238 Foot D. Do you think I can get pregnant? Urban Romance, G-Kickums, add a bookmark. Chapter 238D. Do you think I can get pregnant? On Saturday morning, Su Yuhan woke up early as usual. She got Yi Chun to accompany her to the market to buy groceries. She had been addicted to cooking lately. She said that she wanted to make dumplings for Yi Chun and his daughter at noon. It was probably the result of being triggered by her daughter after she made the egg noodles earlier. Even Yi Chun's suggestion to eat out did not work. On the way back after buying groceries, the duo walked to the Imperial Wind Pavilion side by side. There were rows of old trees by the road. Under the shade of the trees, there were all sorts of fruits, vigor pills, Indian divine oil, recruitment, and a few old men playing chess. The loudspeaker could not stop repeating. Oranges cost 2 yuan per caddy, 5 yuan per caddy. Try before you buy. It's free if it's not sweet. Yi Chun took a deep breath in and extended his arm to hold Su Yuhan's hand by instinct. He enjoyed this ordinary yet fulfilling life. He really hoped that they could continue living like this. However, he knew that it was impossible. After stepping onto the path of cultivation, he understood that no matter how fulfilling a mortal's life was, it would only be a few decades. One could not escape the fate of aging, illness, and death in the blink of an eye. However, to a cultivator, a few decades might be the time of a closed-door cultivation or a time of enlightenment in their dreams. He did not want to see his wife and daughter grow old decades later while he looked the same. He did not want to see his parents enter the cycle of life and death. People said that the great Tao was merciless, but he did not believe that. Please rest your eyes when you read for a long time. Recommended reading. He only believed that when a man achieves the great Tao, even his chickens and dogs rise to the heavens. Yi Chun held Su Yuhan's hand tightly as he thought to this point. A ripple flashed through his eyes that were as calm as water. Yuhan, you've waited for me for 5 years. From now on, I'll give you the most beautiful woman in the world. Our family must live well. Su Yuhan could not help but stop walking, seeming to sense the change in his emotions. She stretched her arm to stroke the hair on her forehead and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Yichen shook his head lightly. Since Bai Zhanyuan was dead, it seemed like he had to bring Yuhan to the west to see the so-called Ghost Rider Sect Mountain Gate. Perhaps he could activate Yuhan's pure Yin body completely. Seeing that he was not going to tell her, she did not ask further. She suddenly held her head down and stammered while blushing. "Yi-chun, do you think I can get pregnant?" It could be said that the two of them had been crazy for the past 2 days. Su Yuhan still wanted to give Meng Meng a younger brother, so she did not take any safety precautions. That was why she was so worried about gains and losses. I guess so. Yichen could not help but laugh when he heard that. In fact, he didn't have much confidence. After all, it was very difficult for a cultivator to give birth to a child if the purity of their bloodline was too high. Su Yuhan responded and nodded lightly. She secretly decided to buy a few pregnancy tests secretly a few days later. Just when the duo arrived at the small bridge, a lady in sunglasses walked toward them under the protection of a few bodyguards. Seeing Yi-chun and Su Yuhan standing in the middle of the road, the leading bodyguard stretched his arm over immediately. He seemed to be trying to push them away. Yi-chun frowned and pulled Su Yuhan behind him. He stretched his arm out and grabbed the man's hand directly. The man's bones were cracking from his grip. Subsequently, he kicked the man over 10 meters away. This sudden scene caused everyone to be shocked. The lady in sunglasses could not help but look at Yi-chun when she snapped back to her senses. "Why did you hit him? Does your man have a mouth?" Yi-chun's expression turned slightly grim. How arrogant of her to ask the bodyguard to open the way. She was pushing him away just because of a disagreement. Didn't she know how to ask him to make way for her? At the same time, the bodyguard who Yi-chun had kicked earlier got up from the ground. He said to Yi-chun in rage, "Go, kill him." The few bodyguards before the lady surrounded Yi-chun at the same time. Yi-chun's expression turned cold and he was going to attack. At that moment, Su Yuhan, who was behind him, grabbed him immediately. "Forget it, Yi-chun." She could not help but look at the lady in sunglasses before her. "Lady, it was your man who wanted to push us away. That's why we fought back. Both of us are in the wrong. Let's just forget it." Although she knew that Yi-chun was more powerful, she did not want to blow things up. Otherwise, the people before her would all die. "Forget it? In your dreams." The bodyguard far away scoffed. Just when he was going to say something, he heard the lady in sunglasses look at Su Yuhan and say in shock, "Why, you're Yuhan?" Su Yuhan was slightly stunned. The lady in sunglasses removed her sunglasses immediately, revealing an extremely charming face. She said while smiling, "Yuhan, it's me, Tong Lei." "You're Tong Lei?" Su Yuhan's beautiful eyes were wide open as disbelief filled her face. Subsequently, she covered her mouth and said in joy, "You're Tong Lei? Please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. It's really you. You've changed a lot. It's really you. You've changed a lot." Seeing that the duo knew each other, Yi-chun's expression was much more relaxed. Tong Lei was Su Yuhan's college roommate. She was one of the 4 beauties of the International Business College along with Su Yuhan, Lin Jiao, and Pan Menjing. However, this lady had only studied for a year and dropped out. Yi-chun had yet to pursue Su Yuhan back then, so they did not know each other. "She's my friend. You guys can leave now." Tong Lei waved, seeing that it was someone she knew. The few bodyguards retreated aside. Tong Lei then said while smiling, "It's been years since we last met. Of course, you've changed a lot." She could not help but glance at Yi-chun as she spoke to this point. There was doubt in her eyes. "Is this your bodyguard? Where did you get him from? He's pretty strong." "He's my husband," Su Yuhan said while blushing. Tong Lei was stunned at first. Subsequently, she was shocked. She took a good look at Yi-chun and said in slight disbelief, "He's your husband? Oh my God, Yuhan, why?" She wanted to say that Yi-chun had such bad taste. She could have found someone better than Yi-chun even if she closed her eyes. However, she swallowed the words when they reached her mouth. "My husband's pretty good." Su Yuhan smiled sweetly and changed the topic. "Oh yeah, why are you here? You seem to be in a hurry." "Our crew is filming nearby. I was delayed by something, so I'm in a hurry," Tong Lei said. She then realized that it was too late, so she said immediately, "I'm sorry. I'm really in a hurry, so I can't talk too much. It's my birthday in 3 days. Why don't you give me your contact number? I'll invite you to my birthday party. We'll catch up by then. Su Yuhan hesitated and added her on WeChat anyway. Looking at the group of people leaving, Su Yuhan said emotionally, "It seems like Tong Lei is a celebrity. Why didn't I recognize her on TV? Weren't you locked in the Dharma Zen temple? Where did you get the TV?" Yichen said in between tears and laughter. P.S. Chapter 1. Chapter 239. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 239. The Unparalleled Swords Challenge shocked the world. CMS. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 239. Jian Wushuang's Challenge shocked the world. After returning home, Yichun saw Su Yuwei combing Mingming's hair. The little guy was wearing a blue and white floral skirt with a flower bud on her head and a bunch of flowers wrapped around her hair in a bun. Coupled with her floral skirt, she looked like a fresh and cute little Lolita. The little girl ran over as soon as she saw Yichun and Su Yuhan. She lifted the hem of her dress and looked at them in anticipation. "Daddy, Mommy, does this dress look good on me?" "Beautiful. My Ming looks good in anything." Yichun nodded as love filled his eyes. He then placed the groceries in the kitchen. "Ming, did you brush your teeth and wash your face?" Su Yuhan walked over, picked her up, and kissed her on the cheek. After the little fellow was praised, she smiled sweetly and seemed to be very happy. "I've washed it. I'm very hygienic. Mom, if you don't believe me, you can see that my teeth are very white." As she spoke, she opened her mouth to reveal rows of neat and white teeth. "Aren't you going to kiss Mommy?" Su Yuhan moved her face closer. "Yes, press." The little fellow kissed her like a chick pecking at rice. Su Yuwei watched from the side with a complicated expression. "Sister, I really envy you," she said faintly. In these 2 days, she had slowly accepted the fact that the Su family had been destroyed. Even so, she had lost a lot of weight. In these 2 days, her mentality had gradually changed. She used to think that it was a mistake for Su Yuhan to fall in love with Yichun. However, she liked Su Yuhan again after seeing the cute Ming. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. How could Big Sister have such a cute daughter? She used to think that Yichun was just a piece of trash who did not deserve her sister. However, Yichun's series of impressive feats crushed the pride in her completely. He even destroyed the Su family that supported her. "Envious of me for what?" Su Yuhan said while smiling. "Are you envious that I have a daughter? If you're really envious, I'll ask your brother-in-law to introduce someone to you. Moreover, you're going to be 25 soon. It's time to consider your marriage." "No, no need." Su Yuwei hurriedly shook her head, blushing. The two sisters went into the kitchen and began wrapping dumplings. Yichun wanted to help, but he was chased out by a certain lady who looked disgusted. It was as if he had wrapped a dumpling into a flour roll. The little girl ran into Yichun's embrace and said while hugging his neck, "Daddy, when are we going to see Grandpa and Grandma? I miss Grandpa and Grandma very much." "Soon," Yichun comforted with a smile. It was time to go back, but before that, he had to go to the mountain gate of the Ghost Rider sect. He also wanted to verify some of the guesses in his heart. At that moment, Lin Tai walked in quickly and placed a letter on the ground respectfully. He said, "My lord, the unparalleled sword, who's ranked number 12 on the heaven leaderboard, has issued a challenge to you. The duel will take place 3 days later at night at Mirror Lake." The unparalleled sword? Yichun frowned. It was not his first time hearing that name. Before this, the word unparalleled made him sad. "That's right, the unparalleled sword." Lin Tai nodded and explained, "It said that this man is good with swords. He's young and was ranked number 11 on the heaven leaderboard before this. After you killed Yuan Bupo, you pushed him to number 12 on the heaven leaderboard. Then, this man issued a 3-month challenge to the unquestionable sword. In a few days, the 3-month deadline will be." He stopped speaking as he spoke to this point. Yichun came to a realization and said in his deep voice, "Just because I killed his opponent, he thinks that I'm more powerful, so he's challenging me." "That's right." Lin Tai was in between tears and laughter. "I heard that this man loves to fight and challenges Sword Dao experts. However, I've no idea where he got the courage to challenge you." What was he thinking when he challenged the number 1 on the heaven leaderboard? Didn't he see that the number 2 on the heaven leaderboard, Yang Junlin, was no match for his lord? With a sword? Unparalleled? Yichen fell into silence and squinted slightly. Is it a coincidence? Lin Tai, who was standing aside, could not figure out what he meant. He asked by instinct, "My lord, should I reject this challenge?" No. Yichen shook his head lightly. There was faint excitement and anticipation in his eyes. "I'll accept this challenge. I like to see who exactly this unparalleled sword is." "Unparalleled? Is that you?" Lin Tai responded and left immediately. He then spread the news that Yi Chun had accepted the unparalleled swords challenge. As soon as the news spread, the entire ancient martial arts world in China fell into dead silence. Subsequently, it was stirred. Have you guys heard? Someone is challenging the number 1 on the heaven leaderboard, Mad Southern Yi. Could it be Yang Junlin, who's ranked number 2 on the heaven leaderboard? That's impossible. Mad Southern Yi is just killed by Zhang Yuan. Even if Yang Junlin has a breakthrough, he wouldn't be here. Tip: please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading: Go for Mad Southern Yi. It's not Yang Junlin. It's someone called the Unparalleled Sword. I heard that he's ranked number 12 on the heaven leaderboard. He's challenged Mad Southern Yi, and he has accepted it. What? The number 12 on the heaven leaderboard is challenging the number 1 on the heaven leaderboard? Is he out his mind? Even if this unparalleled sword wants to be famous, he doesn't have to seek death like this. I heard that too. The battle between the two of them has been confirmed. It'll take place 3 days later at Beijing's Mirror Lake. Countless people were shocked by the news. They could not believe it. After all, Yi Chen's position in the martial Dao world in China was like a god. Nobody was his match. However, when a conversation similar to what happened earlier happened now, everyone had to believe it even if they did not want to. Because of that, the entire ancient martial arts world in China paid attention to the unparalleled sword. With countless people's activities, his information was dug out one after another. The unparalleled sword is only 18 years old. He wears white and appeared out of nowhere 3 months ago. Within 3 months, more than a handful of people have been defeated by him. He's currently ranked number 12 on the heaven leaderboard. He challenged the sword god, Unquestionable Jian, 3 months ago. Everyone could not help but inhale sharply when they learned about the unparalleled sword's information. They no longer looked down on him like they did before. This man was just too young. He was 18 years old. It was not an exaggeration to describe him as a monster for killing 4 martial Dao masters from the 4 ancient martial families of Mount Wangwu at the age of 18. Meanwhile, what were they doing when they were 18? Most of them were either thinking about how to flirt with girls in school or had just come into contact with ancient martial arts. The martial Dao world was in an uproar again. Many people felt sorry for the unparalleled sword's decision and looked down on him. This man is only 18 years old, and he's already so powerful. In another 20 years, when Mad Southern Yi is old, he might be ranked number 1 on the heaven leaderboard in China. It's a pity that this man challenged Mad Southern Yi at this time. As the saying goes, too much is easy to break. China will have one less genius. That's right. Perhaps he doesn't know how terrifying Mad Southern Yi is. P.S. Chapter 2. Chapter 240. Evil Stay at Home Dad in the City. Chapter 240. Mad Southern Yi. If you don't die, who will? Urban Romance. G. Kickums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 240. Mad Southern Yi. If you don't die, who will? Compared to the tremors in the outside world. At that moment, the Martial Alliance headquarters was extremely quiet. The Martial Alliance's elder, Feng Kuahai, sat on the armchair. 4 extremely old silhouettes stood before him, each of them exuding a terrifying power. The 4 of you, I believe you have received the Alliance Master's orders. Feng Kuahai stood up and clasped his fists at the 4 of them. Mad Southern Yi must die. Otherwise, he'll be a threat to our Martial Alliance. Therefore, when the battle between the unparalleled sword and Mad Southern Yi ends, the 4 of you must do your best to kill him. We understand. The 4 of them nodded simultaneously. You don't have to be too nervous. Feng Kuahai then said with a smirk, Although Mad Southern Yi is powerful, the unparalleled sword isn't weak either. Even if the unparalleled sword isn't Mad Southern Yi's match, he can at least severely injure Mad Southern Yi. Mad Southern Yi's ability will definitely drop when he's severely injured. By then, you guys will definitely kill him in one hit. At this point, he paused for a moment and said, "Of course, if the unparalleled sword kills Mad Southern Yi in the end, the unparalleled sword will die too." The four of them looked at him in confusion. One of them said in a hoarse voice, "Elder Foam, the unparalleled sword has no grudge with our martial alliance. If he wins, why don't we recruit him to our martial alliance? This is the alliance leader's order. All you have to do is to obey." Feng Kuai's eyes flashed coldly. In the past, the alliance master had tried to deal with Jian Wushuang. If it wasn't for an old Taoist who had appeared at the critical moment to exchange blows with the alliance master and take the opportunity to rescue Jian Wushuang would not have been able to survive until now. There was already enmity between the two parties since a long time ago. There was no room for reconciliation. Moreover, with Jian Wushuang's talent, if he really submitted to the martial alliance, he might be able to threaten the alliance leader's position within 10 years. Therefore, it was reasonable for Jian Wushuang to die. Feng Kuai could not help but laugh. "Mad Southern Yi, please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading, / in order to deal with you this time. Apart from the 6 black-clothed martial mentoring elders, our martial alliance can be said to have sent out all of our elites and laid out a meticulous plan. If you don't die, who will?" Yichen did not tell Su Yuhan about Wushuang challenging him mainly because he did not want her to worry. Time passed quickly. 3 days later, in the afternoon, just when Yichan was planning to go to Mingjing Lake alone to keep the appointment, Su Yuhan's call rang. It was Tong Lei. "Yuhan, I've booked a banquet. Some of my old classmates will be there. Are you coming to catch up? You, Superstar Tong, are treating me to a meal. How can I not do you the honor?" Su Yuhan smiled and asked, "Where's the gathering? Let's go straight over." "It's not far. It's at the Mingjing Lake Agricola in Nanshan District. The grilled fish there is famous in Beijing. You can also admire the lotus flowers on the lake when you eat." Tong Lei smiled. Although Su Yuhan did not turn on the speakerphone, Yichen heard her mention Mingjing Lake. He could not help but frown. Mirror Lake. Wasn't that where he and Wushuang were going to fight? Su Yuhan hung up the phone after chatting for a while. She looked at Yichan while blinking her eyes. "Tong Lei invited us to Mingjing Lake in Nanshan District. Are you going?" The reason why she wanted to go was mainly that she had been locked up by Su Tao for a long time. She almost did not contact her friends from back then. Moreover, she was going to return to Tian'an soon, so she wanted to catch up before she left. "My wifey has asked, how can I not go? What if you get kidnapped by some puppy?" Yichen's frown eased slowly as he said, while smiling calmly, "Screw you." Su Yuhan punched him angrily and said with a straight face, "How would I dare to look for another man in front of His Majesty, the Heavenly Emperor? Should I bring Meng Meng and Yu Wei?" She hesitated. Yichen nodded without even thinking about it. "Bring them. This girl is clingy to you now. If you don't bring them, she'll pluck every single hair on Cutie's body. I'll inform them then. I'll change my clothes while I'm at it." Su Yuhan smiled and entered the room. Yichen could not help but stare blankly for a moment the moment she came out half an hour later. She had changed her attire today. Her long, beautiful hair was tied up again, and there was a pretty hairpin on top of her head. She looked indescribably classical. On the other hand, she was wearing a light-colored lady's suit, the kind that was extremely fashionable. Inside, she also had a white undershirt that accentuated the beauty of her chest. Meanwhile, she wore a pair of beige casual pants on her lower body. Her beautiful legs that were wrapped in black stockings were wearing a pair of crystal high-heeled shoes. She exuded the aura of a mature woman from head to toe. Every single one of her smiles captivated Yichen. Su Yuhan's pretty face blushed when she seemed to have sensed his gaze. She glared at him angrily. Deep down, she was actually quite conservative. It was rare for her to dress so fashionably. He had no idea why she dressed like that today. Meng Meng ran out of the room and said while giggling, "Daddy, do I look good?" "Yes. Yichen could not stop nodding. So, who's prettier between Meng Meng and Mommy? The little girl blinked and smiled slyly. As soon as she was done speaking, Yichun felt a gaze that was as sharp as a knife looking at him. Please pay attention to your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. / Yichun looked at the little girl helplessly. This girl seems to have become bad recently. I can't believe that she's messing with your father. A certain someone coughed and said while smiling, both of you look good. Your mommy is pretty now, but I believe that you'll be as pretty as your mommy in the future. As soon as he was done speaking, the sharp gaze finally retracted. Yichun picked up the little girl and slapped her, but while pretending to be angry. Sister, Yichun, are you guys going out? At that moment, Su Yue walked in while panting. She only called Su Yuhan Sister Han. She did not call Yichun brother-in-law. Instead, she called him by his name. Su Yuhan nodded and said, It's a friend's birthday today. Wei Wei, if you're not busy, you can come with us. Su Yue agreed immediately. She was really going to rot these few days. The Su family had closed down, and her old friends had become strangers. She was considered to have lost everything. They got into Lin Tai's Audi as soon as they got out of the house. Lin Tai drove toward Nanshan District. At the same time, in a small European-style villa in Beijing, 3 people stood looking at each other. They were a young man in white, a young lady in black with a ponytail, and a middle-aged man in a purple magua. Ning Xuan looked at the young man in white before him with a complicated expression. The battle is coming soon. Are you really going? He still cannot bear to do that even at this point. The young man carried a long sword on his back and stood quietly without saying a word. Brother Wu Shuang, just listen to my dad. You're no match for that mad Southern Yi. You'll die if you go, the young lady in black, Ning Ruolin, advised. I can die in peace if I hear the truth in the morning. The white-robed youth said indifferently. By the time he finished speaking, he had already appeared 10 meters away. Ning Ruolin said with a sullen expression, Dad, what should we do? Forget it, forget it. Let's go and take a look. Ning Xuan shook his head lightly and sighed. P.S. Chapter 3. Chapter 241. The Genius Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 241. Su Yuhan's Friend. Urban Romance. Jikikums. At a bookmark. Chapter 241. Su Yuhan's friend Lin Tai encountered a traffic jam as soon as he drove onto the highway. He only arrived at the next highway junction after half an hour. Over an hour later, the car drove into a secluded mountain area. There were endless paddy fields and mountains around. Meng Meng could not stop screaming as she pointed at a big white bird in the paddy field outside. A child's nature to get close to nature was completely unleashed. Meanwhile, Su Yuhan explained everything to her patiently. Soon, the car finally stopped by the Jade Lake. There were 2 people standing by the lake. They were Tong Lei and one of her bodyguards. Meanwhile, there were a few cars parked by the side. Tong Lei walked over as soon as they got out of the car. She said while smiling at Su Yuhan, Yuhan, I've been waiting for so long. I thought you guys weren't coming. I'm sorry. There was a traffic jam. Su Yuhan smiled apologetically while hugging Meng Meng. Tong Lei just noticed Meng Meng in her embrace. She was stunned at first, then she said in shock, Is this your daughter? Meng Meng, greet Annie Tong. Su Yuhan stretched her arm out to hold the little girl's hand. Hello, Annie Tong, the little girl said in her baby voice. Tong Lei could not help but caress her little round face. She then said, Let's go. We've been waiting for you guys. She glanced at Yi Chun and the Audi that was parked by the road after saying that. She shook her head lightly and turned around to walk in front. He drives an Audi. It seems like Yuhan's husband isn't that great. My lord, I won't be going. I'll wait for you guys outside, Lin Tai said softly as he walked over. He did not know any of them, so it would be meaningless for him to go. Yi Chun nodded lightly and followed Su Yuhan to the pontoon bridge that led to the center of the lake. The entire Mingjing Lake was approximately 1,000 square meters. Meanwhile, there was a retro house in the center of the lake. Smoke was coming out of the house at the moment. As far as the eye could see, it was filled with lotus leaves. There were crystal-clear water droplets standing on the lotus leaves, and under the lotus leaves were extremely lively fish. It gave people a visual experience of being in the Jiangnan water village. You really know how to pick a place. You actually chose a place like this to eat. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Yuhan smiled as she walked. Even Su Yue took out her mobile phone and kept taking photos. She seemed to like the view in front of her very much. However, Yi Chun shook his head lightly. He was not as emotional as the others. What he was thinking was that when night fell, the battle between him and Wu Shuang would destroy the beautiful scenery here. At that time, the entire Mirror Lake would only exist in name. A few minutes later, they entered the farmhouse. The interior space was about 200 square meters, and it was divided into 5 areas. Each area was filled with people, and the decorations were quite green. The tables and stools were all made of bamboo. At this moment, it was bustling inside. Tong Lei led the few of them directly to the 3rd room on the top left corner. There seemed to be 20 people sitting inside at the moment when she pushed the door open. All of them were wearing gold and silver, and they looked extremely exquisite. A lady with headphones got up and complained, "Tong Lei, you're finally here. Look who's here, guys." Tong Lei smiled and moved aside. Su Yuhan, who was carrying Meng Meng, was completely exposed to everyone's sight. Su Yuhan, a young man in a red tie, was stunned. Subsequently, he looked surprised. "It's really Su Yuhan. Tong Lei, you're really tight-lipped. You didn't even tell us that Yuhan was coming." A short-haired girl, sitting in the corner, exclaimed. Su Yuhan smiled, gracefully facing the people's shock. "Long time no see. Qinyang Li Bin, Zhaolan, Su Bowen, take a seat. Don't just stand there." Tong Lei gestured Su Yuhan to sit down immediately. Su Yuhan introduced Yi Chun and Su Yue one by one while smiling. Everyone then had their eyes on the duo. Their eyes lit up when they saw Su Yue. Su Yue was not inferior to Su Yuhan, no matter whether it was her appearance or temperament. When it was Yi Chun's turn, the enthusiasm on everyone's faces faded a lot. Especially when they found out that Yi Chun was Su Yuhan's husband, they could not hide the surprise and hostility in their eyes. Su Bowen, who was among them, said in surprise, "Yuhan, is this Mr. Yi really your husband?" Many people did not know about Yi Chun and Su Yuhan's relationship during university. Only a few of them knew about it. Therefore, he thought that Su Yuhan was joking or that she was looking for a shield to dispel other people's thoughts. After all, on the surface, the difference between Yi Chun and Su Yuhan was just too great. Su Yuhan's pretty face froze. "Su Bowen, do I look like I'd joke about something like that?" Hearing the displeasure in her words, Su Bowen smiled awkwardly and stopped talking. However, he looked at the people around him instinctively and saw a hint of disdain in each other's eyes. As a sea turtle, Qinyang, who had studied abroad and was currently working in a research institute, pushed his glasses up and asked Yi Chun kindly, "I wonder what you're doing now, Mr. Yi?" What he said immediately piqued everyone's interest. Do you even need to ask? Mr. Yi is naturally capable since he managed to win our Yuhan's heart. He's at least an executive of a listed company, isn't he? A young lady with her hair in a bun said with a smile. She was rather pretty and dressed more maturely. Her name was Zhaolan. She was currently married to a wealthy family and was considered a rich wife. That's right. Everyone nodded at the same time. However, there was doubt in their eyes when they looked at Yi Chun. Yi Chun said calmly as he met everyone's gaze, "I'm sorry, but I don't have a job." "You don't have a job?" Everyone was stunned. Even Tong Lei, who was standing aside, was stunned too. She thought she had heard it wrong. Note, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading, Brother Yi, you sure know how to joke. A man with an extraordinary aura sitting at the head of the table said, while smiling, "Everyone wants to know how you managed to get our school beauty, Su Yuhan." Tong Lei had introduced him before. He was Zheng Hua, the son of the Beijing Traffic Management Bureau's director. Among so many people present, he was considered a distinguished person. Even Tong Lei paled slightly before him. After all, Beijing was the capital of China. Putting aside the Traffic Management Bureau, that was an important department that controlled many people's lives, even a police station's director could not be offended by a wealthy family's disciple. Su Yuhan began to regret coming to the banquet when she noticed that the people were vaguely hostile toward Yi Chun. Just when she was going to speak, Su Yuhan's eyes widened. Just when she opened her mouth to speak, Yi Chun, who was standing aside, shook his head lightly. As soon as he said that, many people looked upset as soon as he said that, especially Zheng Hua. He disliked Yi Chun's cold attitude. Moreover, he had tried to woo Su Yuhan since he was a prominent person in university, but he had failed. Now that he was comparing himself to Yi Chun, he felt a faint sense of injustice. However, he had been through a lot, so he did not show it easily. At that moment, the atmosphere in the house was rather suffocating. The people began to reject Yi Chun, but they did not say anything since Su Yuhan was around. It seems like Su Yuhan's husband isn't doing well indeed. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said that. The rich lady, Zhao Lan, secretly scoffed. She began playing with her phone with her head down. A smile appeared at the corner of Chun Yang's lips. I wonder if you're really keeping a low profile or just pretending. However, your attitude has offended everyone here. It's impossible for you to blend in from now on. The people were having mixed feelings. Su Yue was the only one who said nothing while smiling. However, disdain would flash through her eyes every now and then. At that moment, the owner of the farmhouse stepped on the table. "All right, let's eat." Tong Lei looked at Yi Chun and secretly sighed. She changed the topic on purpose and got the people to start eating. In reality, she did not have high hopes for Yi Chun and Su Yuhan to be together. However, it was a fact, so she could not say anything. However, since he had offended Zheng Hua, it would be difficult for him to survive in Beijing in the future. At that moment, a series of screeches came from outside. Subsequently, the people sitting at the door screamed, "Cars! There's so many cars!" P.S. Chapter 4. Chapter 242. The Genius Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 242. The Young Man in White Unparalleled. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Add a bookmark. Chapter 242. The Young Man in White Unparalleled. The white-clothed youth, Peerless, had finally arrived. There were many cars parked there at the moment. There were at least 100 of them as far as the eye could see, blocking the entire lake. Most of them had foreign license plates. At this time, there were already a lot of cars parked there. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 100 cars blocking the entire riverside. Most of them had foreign license plates. The sky had turned dark. The cars were facing the lake. Nobody knew who switched on the headlights first, but a series of headlights were triggered. The lights shone directly on the lake, illuminating the entire lake. Before they could react, the doors of the cars opened. The doors of these cars opened, and countless people in strange clothes walked out of the cars. However, as if they had made an appointment, they stood by the lake without saying a word, as if they were waiting for someone. Who exactly was here? Why was there such a grand entrance? Tong Lei and the rest could not help but look at Zheng Hua. "Zheng Hua, your father is the director of the Traffic Management Bureau. Didn't he tell you what happened when there are so many foreign cars here today?" "No." Zheng Hua shook his head and subsequently turned his head to look at the owner of the farmhouse. "Boss Kong, is there a big shot who's coming to your restaurant for a meal?" "No." The owner of the farmhouse was an honest tan hunk. He said while looking lost, "If there's a big shot who's coming here for a meal, someone would definitely call us to order food." Su Yuhan moved closer to Yi Chun, feeling rather uneasy. "Did something happen, Yi Chun? Why don't we go back?" Don't worry, I'm here." Yi Chun comforted her. Yi Chun comforted her and lifted his eyes to look at the crowd before him. His eyesight was very good, so he could vaguely sense the energy waves on these people. Clearly, most of them were ancient martial artists. Could they be here to watch the battle between me and Unparalleled? Yi Chun secretly speculated. Someone exclaimed in shock, "Look, someone's flying over." Everyone hurriedly looked over. A man leaped down from the lake, stepping on the lake water as he leaped toward them. He was like a goshawk that was about to soar into the sky. With every step he took, he would step on a lotus leaf, and then his figure would leap several meters forward. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared blankly at the scene before them. Their hearts were filled with shock. In just a few breaths, The other party had already leaped onto the farmhouse. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. As soon as the sinister middle-aged man landed on the ground, everyone felt an extremely oppressive aura hit them in the face. They couldn't help but subconsciously take a few steps back. This person's killing intent was so strong. He had definitely killed before. Zheng Hua's heart suddenly palpitated, and a chill ran down his spine. "Who's the boss?" the middle-aged man shouted. The dark-skinned man shuddered and hurriedly walked out of the crowd. Trembling with fear, he said, I am. Who are they? The middle-aged man pointed at Yi Chun and the rest. There was a faint hostility in his eyes. The dark-skinned man said immediately, "They're my guests. They're here to eat." The middle-aged man nodded expressionlessly. He took a good look at the people and said in his deep voice, "I don't care who you guys are, and I don't care what your background is. None of you are allowed to move around today. Stay in this farmhouse obediently. Don't scream or run around." He sounded like he was ordering them. "Why should I?" Zhao Lan replied, subconsciously. "Because of this." The middle-aged man scoffed. He stretched his arm and punched the wooden board beneath his feet. The wooden board shattered immediately, revealing a hole the size of a fist. Gasp! The people had a change of expression. Fear filled their eyes when they looked at the middle-aged man. Zhao Lan was almost scared to death. He punched a hole through the wooden board from a distance. Was he even human? Zheng Hua's pupils shrunk as he suppressed the shock within him. He said to the middle-aged man, "My friend, I'm Zheng Hua. My father is Zheng Chong from the Traffic Control Bureau. We're just here for a meal. May I know what exactly happened?" He dared not be careless before such a person. The director of the Traffic Control Bureau? The middle-aged man looked at him in surprise. His expression softened as he said, "I'm not afraid to tell you that there will be a duel between two experts here today. To prevent any accidents, no one is allowed to move around." Two experts? Zheng Hua was stunned. The rest looked doubtful as well. They felt that it was strange. Chen Yang, who was in the crowd, had a change of expression. He asked immediately, "Are they ancient martial artists? You're quite knowledgeable." The middle-aged man smiled proudly and nodded. Chen Yang's expression changed completely. He had heard of ancient martial artists before. He knew that such people were above ordinary people and should not be provoked. What's an ancient martial artist? Tong Lei's beautiful eyes widened. Chen Yang took a deep breath and said, "I'm afraid you guys don't know about this. In our society, there's a group of people whose strength exceeds that of ordinary people. They can split rocks and walk on waves. These people are called ancient martial artists, just like the one in front of us." Everyone's expression changed upon hearing that. Tong Lei's little mouth formed an O shape. Clearly, she was shocked speechless by the news. "I wonder who the two people who are going to fight today are." Zheng Hua mustered his courage to ask. The middle-aged man looked at the lake with respect in his eyes. "One of them is a legend in China's ancient martial arts world, while the other is a young genius. Today, all of us are here to witness this rare occasion." Seeing that Zheng Hua still had questions, the middle-aged man shook his head impatiently. "All right, don't ask anymore. You won't understand even if I tell you. You just need to remember not to talk from now on. Those two should be here soon." As soon as he was done speaking, someone immediately exclaimed, "Look, there are people on the lake." Everyone looked in the direction that he was pointing at immediately. They saw a white silhouette standing at the end of the lotus pond. The white silhouette stood on the lake and seemed to be heading toward them. Reminder, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading, he was coming. The silhouette approached from afar, and when everyone could see it clearly, their faces were filled with incomparable shock. It was a young man who looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old. He was dressed in white and carried a long sword wrapped in black cloth on his back. Only the hilt of the sword was exposed. What shocked them the most was that the young man with the sword on his back was standing on the surface of the lake. Every step he took created ripples, but he did not fall into the lake. It was as if there were rows of invisible wooden stakes dragging him down. After the young man entered everyone's line of sight, he suddenly stopped on a lotus flower. He remained motionless, revealing an extremely handsome face. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His temperament was cold, and there was a hint of determination on his face. Many girls' hearts could not help but race when they saw the young man. Their faces turned red instantly, and their bodies felt numb. "He's so handsome." Even Su Yu Wei, who was proud and never chased after celebrities, could not help but mutter. Her beautiful eyes were filled with splendor. Meanwhile, there were 5 silhouettes standing on the cliffs on both sides of Mingjing Lake. Each of them had restrained their aura on purpose. Feng Kuai stood on the top of the cliff with his hands behind his back. He looked far away, taking in the entire Mingjing Lake. When the young man in white appeared, he could not help but reveal a smile on his tense face. The unparalleled sword is finally here. I think Mad Southern Yi will be here soon. Mad Southern Yi, you must come. Meanwhile, Ning Ruolin tugged Ning Zuan's sleeve in the crowd across the lake. She was extremely excited. "Dad, brother unparalleled. Itchy, what's wrong with him?" Ning Zuan asked. "Itchy's so handsome." The girl could not stop slapping her blushing cheeks as she said that like a love-struck fool. The corner of Ning Zuan's lips twitched a little. The moment the young man in white appeared, Yi Chen's calm expression finally changed. There was shock, disbelief, doubt, and excitement. "Unparalleled, is it really you? I've been writing since I woke up at 7 in the morning, and I've only finished writing these 5 chapters. I didn't even dare to look at the book review section during this period. I know that everyone is scolding me, but there's nothing I can do. It takes time to write 5 chapters in a row. 1 chapter takes 2 hours, so 10 chapters will take 10 hours. Therefore, I'm telling you, I'll update at 9 at night every day from now on." "Oh yeah, some people say that I'm charging too much. Let me explain. The fee is fixed. It's 5 cents per 1,000 words. A chapter of 2,000 words is 10 cents, which is 10 coins. If a chapter costs more than 10 coins, it means that the chapter has more than 2,000 words." Chapter 243. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad. Chapter 243 CMS. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 243. Unparalleled. I've been waiting for you. Unparalleled. Is it really you? Yi Chen stared deadly at the white-clothed silhouette on the lake. The shock and waves within him were at their peak. He had a sword that could move mountains, break rivers, flip oceans, subdue demons, suppress demons, kill gods, pick stars, destroy cities, and open the sky. The sword was called the Unparalleled Sword. The Unparalleled Sword was a flying sword that Yi Chen refined when he traveled to the cultivation world. It was initially a low-grade magic tool, but it had been with Yi Chen for a long time. They were like servants and friends. Later on, a sword spirit was born. Yi Chen named it Unparalleled, representing that his sword Dao was unparalleled. No one in the world could beat him. Throughout 3,000 years, the master and servant worked hand in hand. One man and one sword. They broke through the world and eventually became a paragon in the immortal world. The Unparalleled Sword was renamed the Heavenly Emperor Sword. The Heavenly Emperor Sword was in charge of killing, controlling hundreds of races, and suppressing demons. That day, Yi Chen was besieged by the Southern Demon Emperor, the Western Buddha Master, and the Northern Demon Emperor. He fought until he was exhausted. That day, Yi Chen stood at the peak of the majestic God Mountain with the Heavenly Emperor Sword in his hand. His body was covered in blood, and the sword in his hand was crying after absorbing his blood essence. That day, the Heavenly Emperor Sword's sword spirit, unparalleled, released a monstrous sword intent to protect Yi Chen. Sword chi filled the sky as it chose to self-destruct and perish together with the enemy. At the critical moment, Yi Chen knew that he was going to die. He could not bear to see Unparalleled destroyed, so he used his remaining immortal power to retrieve the sword spirit from the Heavenly Emperor Sword and sent it to the lower realm for reincarnation. Initially, he thought it would be difficult for the master and servant to meet again in this life. Never did he expect to sense his aura from the white-clothed young man. He was in disbelief and could not believe it. At that moment, Yi Chen's expression could not stop changing. He hesitated and eventually held back from reuniting with with the unparalleled sword spirit. As the white-clothed young man appeared, thousands of people in the entire Mingjing Lake had their eyes on him. Many ancient martial artists who came to watch the battle were shocked. The rumors are indeed true. This kid looks like he's not even 18 years old yet. The most important thing is please note. Please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. At such a young age, this child has comprehended the perfection like water realm. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The unparalleled sword is here. I wonder when Mad Southern Yi will arrive. In addition to these ancient warriors, ordinary people, including Su Yuwei, Zheng Hua, and the others, could not help but feel a surge of emotions. The youth in white was simply too handsome. All the women present were infatuated with him. Even Chen Yang, who had always been extremely confident in his looks, could not help but feel ashamed of himself in front of the young man in white. Facing all kinds of gazes, the white-robed youth on the lake looked at the people on the shore. He frowned slightly, as if he didn't like the presence of so many people. Mad Southern Yi, I know you're here. Show yourself. Since you're able to kill unquestionable Jian, I'm sure your sword Dao cultivation isn't weak. I like to experience it for myself today. The young man in white lifted his eyes and looked around. He seemed to be talking to someone. His voice was clear and cold, and there was a hint of battle intent between his brows. His voice was neither loud nor soft, but it spread throughout the entire Mirror Lake without missing a single word. It was also clearly transmitted into everyone's ears. The ancient warriors on the other side of the lake were shocked. They bowed slightly and clasped their fists at the lake. They had fanaticism and respect on their faces, and they felt their breathing quicken, the legend in their hearts. The China #1, Mad Southern Yi, was about to appear. The place was extremely quiet. Compared to them, Zheng Hua and the rest in the farmhouse were looking around with their eyes wide open. They seemed to want to know who the young man in white was talking to. The way the young man in white appeared shocked them greatly. Since he was already so powerful, the person who fought him would definitely not be weak. Tong Lei and the rich lady, Zhao Lan, felt like they had entered an unknown world. Everything that they had seen had exceeded their understanding. Chen Yang pushed his glasses, the shock in him still lingering. I can't believe I'm lucky enough to witness a battle between ancient warriors today. Zheng Hua clenched his fists and clenched his teeth. He, the son of the Traffic Management Bureau's director, was not taken seriously at all. Only now did he understand that the so-called power and wealth were not as shocking as what he was seeing. However, who exactly was this Mad Southern Yi? When he came out, he would try his best to get to know him no matter what. If he could get some guidance from him, his future would be extraordinary. Zheng Hua could not help but glance at Su Yuhan and Yi Chen next to him by instinct as he thought to this point. A ferocious gleam flashed through his eyes. If I, Zheng Hua, can get Mad Southern Yi's guidance, who are you, Su Yuhan, to me? By then, you'll definitely know the difference between me and your husband and regret your choice. Just when they were holding their breaths and waiting in silence, a weak voice was heard. Yi Chen, the person he's waiting for. Isn't it you? It was Su Yuhan who spoke. She knew about some of Yi Chen's techniques. Although she did not know that Yi Chen had the title of Mad Southern Yi, she could roughly guess it. That was why she asked by instinct. Zhao Lan, who was next to her, was stunned at first. Subsequently, she could not help but scoff. Yuhan, although I know that you're close to your husband, you don't have to flatter him like that, do you? She glanced at Yi Chen in slight disdain as she spoke to this point. She said after a scoff, Moreover, do you think he can compare to that handsome guy on the lake? Su Yuhan opened her mouth in an attempt to speak. Reminder, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. All right, Yuhan, you're still in the mood to joke at a time like this. Are you trying to get us all killed? Zheng Hua stopped her immediately. He glanced at the middle-aged man before him by instinct after saying that, afraid that he would be enraged after hearing that. Tong Lei and Chen Yang, who were standing aside, shook their heads lightly. They treated what Su Yuhan said as a joke. Your husband looks so ordinary. He doesn't look like an expert at all. The people looked around again, secretly anticipating the arrival of that important person. Yi Chun, who was in the crowd, secretly nodded when he saw Su Yuhan's confused expression. Subsequently, he glanced at the dozen people before him and said while frowning, "Excuse me, what are you doing? Hold it in if you're going to the toilet." Zhao Lan said coldly. She thought Yi Chun was so scared by the scene before him that he needed to go to the toilet. Tong Lei nodded and said, "That's right, Yi Chun. Just hold it in. You guys have misunderstood. I'm not going to the toilet. I'm going to an appointment." Yi Chun said, "What appointment?" Zhao Lan was stunned. Subsequently, she was enraged. "Do you really think that you're Mad Southern? Mr. Yi?" Even Chen Yang, who claimed to be well-mannered, frowned. He was showing faint signs of being enraged. Yi Chun shook his head lightly. He pushed the people before him away forcefully and walked out. "You be Astra's start, come back now." Zhao Lan's beautiful face turned pale from fear. It was too late when she wanted to stop him. She could only glare at Su Yuhan angrily. "Look at your great husband. He's going to get us killed. Even I can't protect him now." Zheng Hua sighed, pretending to be troubled. However, there was a hint of gloating between his brows. "Yi, you're courting death." Seeing Yi Chun walk out, the middle-aged man standing at the front shouted immediately, "Brat, where are you going? Stop right there, or don't blame me for her." However, before he could finish, he abruptly shut his mouth. "Wu Shuang, I have been waiting for you for a long time." Yi Chun laughed out loud. Subsequently, he leaped and soared into the air. He leaped toward the young man in white who was on the lake. The whole place was dead silent. P.S. Chapter 1. Chapter 244. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 244. Master, it's really you? Urban Romance, Jiechi CMS, and L-Tip. Please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. T. Divid equals link right. Add a bookmark. Master, it's really you? The expressions on everyone's faces froze. Master, it's really you? Especially Chun Yang, Zheng Hua, Tong Lei, Zhao Lan, and the rest. They stared at Yi Chun, who seemed to have grown wings with their mouths agape. They looked like they had just seen a ghost. The middle-aged man who wanted to stop Yi Chun earlier felt his legs go limp. A chill rushed into his heart. What? He's Mad Southern? How is that possible? How could he be that person? At this moment, Zhao Lan's expression was as ugly as if she had eaten a fly. She almost screamed out from her throat. Qinyang was completely speechless. Tong Lei covered her little red mouth with her hand by instinct. She felt her mind go blank while disbelief filled her beautiful eyes. Zheng Hua sucked in a breath of cold air as a storm surged in his heart. He could not believe everything that was happening before his eyes. However, the truth was right before their eyes. They had to believe it. On the other hand, Su Yuhan and Su Yuwei looked normal. After all, one of them had witnessed Yi Chun's ability while the other knew his identity. Yi Chun ignored the people. He paused after leaping hundreds of meters away and landed directly on a lotus leaf. He stood proudly as he stepped on the water, creating ripples. "Greetings, Venerable One. Greetings, Venerable One." The 1,000 people across the lake bowed to Yi Chun at the same time. Respect filled their faces. Nobody doubted Yi Chun's identity. The reason being that nobody dared to impersonate Mad Southern Yi. Moreover, his opponent was an expert who ranked 12th on the Heaven leaderboard. Only the top 10 on the Heaven leaderboard could fight him. Almost at that moment, Feng Kuai, who was on the cliff on both sides of Mingjing Lake. Tip, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. 2000 recommended reading. At this moment, he finally smiled. Mad Southern Yi. Oh, Mad Southern Yi, you're finally here? Yi Chun ignored the people's voices. He looked directly at the young man in white who was less than 50 steps away from him after he steadied himself. His divine sense surged towards him like a tide. That's right, it was his aura. It's really him. The unyielding, resolute, cold, and persistent aura that the young man exuded was exactly the same as his. Yi Chun finally confirmed his speculation. Even though the sword spirit of the past had turned into a human now, Yi Chun was still certain because he had been with Wu Shuang for thousands of years. They knew each other very well. No matter how calm Yi Chun was, He could not control his excitement at that moment as he thought to this point. At the same time, the cold expression on the face of the white-robed youth, who was 50 steps away from him, finally showed a slight change. It seemed like surprise, disbelief, and doubt. "Master, is that really you?" Thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind, and his body trembled slightly. He forcefully suppressed the emotions in his heart and returned to his indifferent expression. "Why are you called Mad Southerny?" This brat was still cautious. A smile appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lips upon hearing that. He said slowly, "Riding a horse to the south, Fong Lang, 100,000 heavenly soldiers, all for the sake of freedom. Where are you? Let's test the heavenly emperor's sword, whose smile shatters the moonlight and falls on the heart." The white-robed youth enunciated word for word. The smile in Yi Chen's eyes grew. Listening to the sound of sabers in the night, the sword is unsheathed with killing intent. "Where do you want to go?" The sword turns into a dragon's roar. Where the green blade points, the enemies charge in all directions. When I look back, the moon is like frost. So what? Tears gradually appeared at the corner of the white-robed youth's eyes. The battle intent on his body faded gradually. Yi Chen clenched his fists tightly. Yi Chen had adapted the poem based on the Swordnet 3 when he founded the Eastern Heavenly Court in the Immortal World. At that time, there was a sect in the Central Celestial region in the south that gathered 200,000 people to rebel. It was called the Southern Heavenly Court. The Southern Immortal Venerable, Fong Qingtian, called himself the Southern Heavenly Emperor. Yi Chen went south with his sword. After leading 100,000 elite heavenly soldiers to destroy the sect, he caressed the Heavenly Emperor's sword's blade gently. He felt something in his heart. Apart from him and the unparalleled sword, nobody else in the world knew about it. That was how Yi Chen's title, Mad Southern, came about. That was why the white-robed youth asked, "Why are you called Mad Southern, sir?" as soon as he saw him. It was a test. The brat was worried that someone would disguise as Yi Chen to fool him. After all, it was common for cultivators to use shadow shift. Moreover, they could imitate someone else's aura. The people who were watching could not help but look shocked when they saw that not only did Yi Chen and the unparalleled sword not fight, but they were reciting poems instead. Feng Kuai, who was standing on the cliff, frowned. "What the hell are they doing? If they want to fight, let's fight. Why are they reciting poems?" "Elder Feng, something doesn't seem right." The four people standing behind Feng Kuai frowned. One of them could not help but say, "The battle intent and killing intent on their bodies are gone." Feng Kuai's heart sank. He had no idea why, but he had a strange feeling of uneasiness. Above Mingjing Lake, Yi Chen walked toward him one step after another. He said as he walked, "Who dares to fight with the unparalleled sword? Let's fight in the 9 heavens." Reminder, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading, /The Dance of a Beauty's Sleeves Startles the World. The world turns red as soon as they ride a horse and wield a sword. The white-robed youth walked toward Yi Chen. The duo was less than 10 steps away from each other. The people who were watching the battle saw a monstrous sword intent explode from both of them. Sharp sword chi and sword gleam filled heaven and earth. They were shuttling back and forth around the duo. The sword gleam was glaring. The people could not help but close their eyes by instinct. All they could hear was the sound of something slicing through the air. Many of them felt their legs turn to jelly, and they could not help but fall onto the ground. Their faces turned pale as they were afraid that they would be affected by the sword chi that the duo released. What a powerful sword chi! The four people behind Feng Kuai inhaled sharply. They could sense how terrifying the sword chi that the duo released was. If a martial Dao master were to get close to the duo at that moment, he might be torn into pieces by the sword chi. Feng Kuai's heart jolted. He squeezed a smirk on his initially grim face again. Are they finally fighting? That gave me a scare. When the people opened their eyes, they had a horrified expression on their faces. They saw the lotuses in the pond being swept into the air. They were disintegrated and crushed by the whistling sword chi. They were finally fighting. This was what everyone was thinking. However, they could not get rid of the shock in their hearts. Just the clash of their auras was already so terrifying. If they were to unleash their full strength, the entire Mirror Lake would probably be shattered, right? Zhenghua, Zhaolan, and the rest turned pale. They had goosebumps from Yi Chen's power. Most importantly, they had been hostile toward Yi Chen earlier. If he were to take revenge, they would be killed. Su Yuhan, who was in the crowd, held her daughter's hand tightly. She glared at Yi Chen with her beautiful eyes, afraid that he would disappear before her eyes in the next second. On the cliff, Feng Kuai said without even turning his head, "For elders, once the outcome of the battle is decided, you guys will attack. You must kill Mad Southern Yi, not waiting for him to finish." The next moment, the unparalleled sword, who was on the lake, retracted his aura all of a sudden. He knelt on one knee on the water and could not hide the excitement in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen. "Master, it's really you?" P.S. Chapter 2. Chapter 245. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 245. Feng Kuai's Fear, Urban Romance, Jiechi. CMS. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 245. When Master and Servant reunite, Feng Kuai is terrified. Above the yellow mirror lake, a young man in white knelt on one knee before Yi Chen. Meanwhile, the sword on his back was vibrating and humming. This sudden scene caused everyone to be dumbstruck, and they were unable to recover from their shock for a long time, as if they'd been petrified. "Master, it's really you." A teardrop fell from the corner of the young man's eye and landed on the surface of the lake. The sound was exceptionally clear. The young man closed his eyes as countless complicated memories flooded his mind. In its early years, it was originally a low-grade flying sword of the lowest level in the cultivation world. It was its master who never left it until it gradually developed intelligence. It had been 3,000 years, and its master had used it to defend against enemies, to comprehend swordsmanship, and to nourish it with his own spiritual energy. In this world, it had no friends or relatives. It only had its master, and its master was both a servant and a friend. Master understood the sword, understood it, and it also understood its master. However, the rebel was too powerful, and its master extracted its spiritual intelligence from the celestial arch sword at the crucial moment. He wanted to send it to the lower bound for reincarnation, as he was unwilling to die for it. That day, it emitted a monstrous sword intent and wailed endlessly. It destroyed its own body just to protect its master. That day, it fell into a coma. When it woke up, it found itself in this world, and, coincidentally, it had an extra body. But the master was not here. In this world, it couldn't sense any familiar aura. Everything was so strange. There was no warmth, and everything was so cold. Because its master wasn't here, it was like a lonely young bird, flying alone and dejected. It wanted to find its master. Even if he had to travel through the myriad worlds, he would find it. It is only a sword of its master. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. If it had a master, it would be stained with dust. It had to protect the dignity of the sword Tao. In this world, only the master understood the sword, and only the master was qualified to use the sword. Anyone who wanted to surpass the master because their sword skills were not good enough had to die. Now, his master was right in front of him. How could he not be excited? Yi Chen looked at the young man who was kneeling before him quietly. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. He took a deep breath and walked over to help the young man up. He said in a soft voice, "Wu Shuang, I didn't expect you and me to meet in this world. Master, I should have known that Mad Southern Yi was you." Apart from being excited, Wu Shuang was also a little regretful. If he had known that Mad Southern Yi was his master, he would not have waited until now to reunite with his master. "I don't blame you." Yi Chen shook his head lightly and said while smiling, "There are many people called Mad Southern Yi in the entire world. Even if you saw me with your own eyes, didn't you find it hard to believe and tested me?" Wu Shuang smiled. At this moment, he was no longer the monstrous genius of the sword Tao in the eyes of others, nor was he the cold wooden block in the eyes of the Ning family's Ning Ruin. Instead, he was like a shy youth who had found his family. He would only show this side to Yi-chun. The people who were watching were completely dumbfounded seeing that the duo did not fight. Instead, they were chatting happily. Subsequently, an uproar broke out at the same time. Someone looked confused. Can anyone tell me what exactly is going on? I think I heard the unparalleled sword calling mad Southern Yi master. An old man inhaled sharply in shock. Apart from them, even Zheng Hua, Zhao Lan, and the rest looked doubtful. Su Yue looked at Su Yuhan, who was carrying the child, and asked in confusion, "Sister, does Yi Chun know that person?" "I don't know." Su Yuhan was confused. She had never seen the unparalleled sword before, nor had she heard Yi Chun mention him. However, her tense heart was relieved now. Since they were not fighting, it meant that Yi Chun was safe. Ning Ruolin, who was across the lake, was so excited that she almost jumped up. "Dad, Brother Unparalleled didn't fight that guy." "That's great. Brother Unparalleled is fine now." Ning Ziyuan was relieved. However, there was deep doubt in his eyes when he looked at the unparalleled sword in Yi Chun. He heard the unparalleled sword calling Yi Chun master earlier. On the cliff, Feng Kuai looked at the duo below in disbelief. He looked rather panicked. What exactly is going on? Why aren't they fighting? What's wrong with the unparalleled sword? How can he call mad Southern Yi master? He cannot be blamed for being so furious. Indeed, the Martial Alliance had put in a lot of effort and paid a great price to get the duo to fight. Their goal was to kill Yi Chun and the unparalleled sword. Now that the duo was not fighting, it meant that all the arrangements that they had made earlier were for naught. Most importantly, they had made two enemies unknowingly. It would have been fine if he was not angry. As soon as he was angry, the vital energy and blood in his body exploded. The aura that he intentionally hit exploded too. Yi Chun and the unparalleled sword, who were on the lake, sensed it at the same time. The unparalleled sword regained his coldness from before and said, "Master, the 5 people up there are hostile toward you. I'll go up and kill them. And reminder, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. MBSB. There's no rush." Yi Chun shook his head lightly and asked, "Let me ask you, why did you challenge me? Before this, I had a 3-month agreement with Unquestionable Jian. Later on, someone told me that Unquestionable Jian died in your hands. That's why I challenged you." "That's clear then." Yi Chun chuckled softly as a ferocious gleam flashed through his eyes. "If I'm not mistaken, this is a conspiracy to start a war between us." The reason he said that was because he sensed a familiar aura on the cliff. It was the Martial Alliance elder, Feng Kuai, whom he had encountered at the Surge River when he was about to kill Yuan Bupo. He had killed Feng Kuai's senior brother, Yuan Bupo, so there was enmity between them. Connecting that to the night at the Imperial Wind Pavilion where the 5 powerhouses came to kill him, the Kurong old man had told him that he was from the Martial Alliance. Therefore, it was not difficult to guess who was behind this. Yi Chun lifted his eyes to look at the cliff as he thought to this point. His cold voice echoed through the entire Mingjing Lake. "Martial Alliance's dogs, you must be tired after watching me for so long. Since you want to kill me, why don't you seize the opportunity today to attack me together?" The crowd exclaimed as soon as he said that. They could not help but follow Yi Chun's gaze. However, since it was nighttime, they could not see anything. At the same time, "Oh no, he found us." Feng Kuai's scalp exploded when he heard Yi Chun's voice. He had goosebumps all over his body at that moment. Go now," Yi Chun said. He took the lead and flew far away. He was terrified. He did not think that he would be able to win against Mad Southern Yi with the help of the 4 masters. One must know that Mad Southern Yi had killed 5 masters before this. There were even members on the Heaven leaderboard among them. Moreover, the unparalleled sword was calling Mad Southern Yi his master. He must report this to the chief as soon as possible. Seeing that Feng Kuai was running, Yi Chun glanced at the unparalleled sword and smiled calmly. "Why don't we compete today? Let's see who can kill more." His words seemed calm, but they contained a great amount of murderous intent. P.S. There are 2 more chapters to the 3rd chapter. I'm afraid that I won't make it in time, so I'll release these 3 chapters in advance. Chapter 246. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 246. Wielding the afterlife sword again, killing all evil and despicable people. Urban romance. G-Kickums. Tip. Please rest your eyes while reading for a long time. Recommended reading. BR/bookmark. Chapter 246. Wielding the afterlife sword again, killing all evil and despicable people. He looked into Yi Chen's eyes. A smile flashed deep in his cold eyes. I'm willing to wield the afterlife sword again with Master to kill all evil and despicable people. At this moment, he killed with his sword alone, turning the world upside down. Blood flowed like a river. He killed until hundreds of clans knelt before him, and tens of thousands of immortals came to pay homage to him. Wielding the afterlife sword again, killing all evil and despicable people. Yi Chen laughed maniacally. He soared into the sky directly from the surface of the lake and turned into a sword that shot toward the mountains by the Mirror Lake. PSSSD. Lightning flashed on the unparalleled sword's body while the long sword on his back hummed softly. Subsequently, he chased after Yi Chen while stepping on lightning. The people who were watching the battle were left dumbstruck. Meng Meng, who was in Su Yuhan's embrace, blinked her dark eyes and said in her baby voice, "Mommy, where did Daddy go?" "Mommy has no idea, but Daddy will be back soon." Su Yuhan looked lost too, so she could only comfort the little girl. Seeing that Yi Chen was gone, Zheng Hua and the rest felt the pressure on them lift. Zhao Lan did not hide the jealousy in her eyes at all. She said while looking at Su Yuhan, "Yuhan, you've really hidden yourself well. Your husband is so powerful, but you didn't tell us." Only then did she realize that their so-called pride was worthless before Yi Chen. He had never looked them in the eye at all. Chen Yang pushed his glasses and walked to Su Yuhan. He bowed in all seriousness. "Yuhan, I've offended Mr. Yi with my words earlier. I hope that you can speak up for me. After all, we're all classmates." He was smart. He knew that Yi Chen was from a different world from them. If he continued to put on airs, he would be the one who would suffer eventually. Therefore, he might as well be more straightforward. Tip. Please rest your eyes when you read for a long time. Recommended reading. BR/with him leading the way. Zheng Hua seemed to have woken up from a dream. He quickly said, "Yes, Yuhan, we're all classmates, don't worry. Yi Chen isn't that petty. Let bygones be bygones." Su Yuhan smiled lightly, but there was a sense of distance in her eyes. This trip had allowed her to see through people's hearts. "Yuhan, since when did your husband become so powerful?" Tong Lei, the celebrity who had been silent, could not help but ask with a complicated expression. When she first saw Yi Chen, she thought that Su Yuhan had married the wrong person. She was proud that she was single until now. Never had she thought that reality would give her a hard slap. However, she was not nervous. After all, she did not show any disrespect to Yi Chen from the beginning until the end. Su Yuhan shook her head lightly. "I don't know either." "You don't know?" They smiled subconsciously. They knew that she didn't want to say it, but they didn't force her. Su Yue looked at the place where the unparalleled sword had fought earlier in melancholy. She pulled Su Yuhan aside and said while stammering, "Sister, what's the relationship between brother-in-law and that guy in white? Why are you asking that?" Su Yuhan was stunned. Su Yue rolled her eyes, but she was avoiding her gaze. "Oh, I'm just curious. Don't tell me that you've fallen for him." Su Yuhan was shocked when she saw her abnormal behavior. "He looks like he's only 17 or 18 years old. He's still a kid, and you're 7 or 8 years older than him. What are you talking about, sister?" Su Yue stomped her feet and turned her face away intentionally. However, her pretty face was blushing so much that it was almost bleeding. Her ears were red. It was rare to meet such a handsome guy who was so capable. So what if he was 8 years older? So what if he fell in love with a younger man? Moreover, he was already an adult when he was 18. He was no longer a kid. In a small forest on the outskirts of the Swallow Mountain, Range 5 silhouettes kept leaping through the forest. Their figures were like dragons and tigers, so fast that it was hard to catch them. Wherever the silhouettes passed, countless fallen leaves would be swept up, and the sound of the air being torn apart and the ground cracking could be heard. Feng Kuai ran at the front with intense fear and regret on his face. Initially, he thought his plan to trick Yi Chun was foolproof. Never had he thought that the unparalleled sword and Yi Chun would not fight at the critical moment. Forget that. The duo even worked together to kill them. The five of them could not handle Yi Chun alone, let alone the unparalleled sword. Therefore, he was afraid. In reality, nobody was not afraid of death. Even those old people who had lived for over 100 years and thought that they had seen through life and death could not face it calmly when they were faced with death. No, I can't die. As long as I escape to the Martial Alliance, the chief will definitely save me. With the chief, the unparalleled sword and mad Southern, you won't be able to kill me even if they work together. He ran even faster as he thought to this point. However, in the next second, the five of them stopped running. They saw a skinny young man standing 50 meters ahead of them at the moment. Compared to them who were panting, the young man stood with his arms behind his back with a calm expression on his face. Retreat. Feng Kuai's heart sank without even thinking. Reminder, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. They wanted to turn around and run in the opposite direction, but when they turned around, a young man in white slowly walked over and blocked their way. At that moment, Feng Kuai's face turned pale. Rage, fear, helplessness, and sadness flashed through his face. Mad Southern Yi, please let me go. This is all a misunderstanding. We're just here to watch the battle. Misunderstanding? A mocking smirk appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lips. Let me ask you, are the Ku Rong old men from your martial alliance? Yes. Feng Kuai's heart sank. He said while shaking his head immediately, but I didn't send them. I didn't know anything from the beginning. Let me ask you again. Are you from the Martial Alliance? Yi Chen interrupted him and said with an extremely cold expression, the Martial Alliance. They had offended him time and time again. When the Ku Rong old men came to kill him, Yi Chen had said that there was no need for the Martial Alliance to exist anymore. Feng Kuai nodded by instinct. I've never thought of going against you. Since you're from a Martial Alliance, you should be killed. Yi Chun and the unparalleled sword moved at the same time as soon as the word was said. Two terrifying sword chi covered an area within 500 meters. Soon, four heads were lying on the ground quietly. Meanwhile, there were four headless bodies next to the heads. They were the four martial Dao masters that Feng Kuai had brought with him. Even if the four of them worked together, they would not be Yi Chen's match. Moreover, there was the unparalleled sword. It was almost a one-hit kill. No, don't kill me, don't kill me. Feng Kuai shrieked in fear upon witnessing the four masters being killed just like that. His face was twisted. Don't worry, I won't kill you for now. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and looked at him extremely coldly. I've told you that there's no need for the Martial Alliance to exist anymore. I'll let you go today. Remember to inform the people from the Martial Alliance to prepare for your funeral. I'll come and destroy your sect with my sword in 3 days. A sword gleam flashed. Both of Feng Kuai's arms were severed on the ground. He shrieked on the ground from the intense pain. P.S. Chapter 4. There's one more chapter. Chapter 247. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 247. A battle between two women. Urban romance. G-Kickums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 247. A fight between two women. As Yi Chun and the unparalleled sword recognized each other as master and servant. This earth-shattering battle that had attracted the attention and anticipation of everyone in the world ended just like that. In the eyes of the spectators, the two of them did not fight from the beginning to the end. When these people returned in disappointment, the result of the battle between Yi Chun and the unparalleled sword was spread out. Countless people were shocked and found it hard to accept. After all, based on Mad Southern Ye's past results, none of those who challenged him survived, such as Yuan Bupo and Northern Devil Jiang. However, things changed when it came to Jian Wushuang. Only a portion of the people who knew about the actual battle remained silent. These people knew that the unparalleled sword called Mad Southern Yi Master. There was too much information revealed in this. Surprisingly, Martial Alliance remained silent this time. Yi Chun could not care less about the rumors and gazes from the outside world because the Imperial Wind Pavilion had two new guests out of nowhere. It was Ning Ziyuan and Ning Rulan. Ning Ziyuan was the master of Luoyang's weapon forging family, the Ning family. However, he did not have any arrogance. Of course, that might be the reason why he dared not show off his identity before Yi Chun. On the other hand, ever since Wu Shuang moved into the Imperial Wind Pavilion, Ning Rulan had dragged Ning Ziyuan over as a guest. She could not wait to be around Wu Shuang 24/7, calling him Brother Wu Shuang this and Brother Wu Shuang that. Seeing this, Su Yue was sulking. It couldn't be helped. Ning Rulan was only 18 years old and could call her whatever she wanted. But she, Su Yue, was already 25 years old. She couldn't call a boy younger than her brother, even if she was beaten to death. If she called Ning Rulan little brother, the distance between them would widen and they would sound like siblings. Therefore, Su Yue secretly felt angry. She found Ning Rulan an eyesore and made a few sarcastic remarks from time to time. However, she had met her match this time. Whenever the two young mistresses met, they would fight like cocks. If Su Yuhan had not been persuading them, they would probably have fought. Jian Wushuang was expressionless the whole time, as if he did not see the two misses' behavior. Yichen called him to the room and stretched his arm out to point at Su Yuhan next to him. "This is my wife, Su Yuhan." Wushuang greets mistress. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading the unparalleled sword knelt on one knee before Su Yuhan. He was not an earthling, so his thinking had always been stuck in the old customs of the feudal society. The sudden scene shocked Su Yuhan, and she hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Get up, I can't take it. Mistress is master's wife and the future empress. It's only right and proper for me to kneel to mistress." Jian Wushuang looked determined. "What mistress? Empress? You're Yi Chen's brother and friend. If you don't mind, just call me Big Sister." Su Yuhan looked at Yi Chen in panic. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and walked over to help him up. He said, "Don't kneel for no reason in the future. Let me tell you something else." The unparalleled sword stood up straight. "From now on, you're no longer the heavenly emperor sword or the unparalleled sword." Yi Chen smiled calmly. The unparalleled sword knelt on one knee on the ground again. His voice was rather deep. "Master, are you abandoning me? Did Wu Shuang do something wrong?" Yi Chen felt warmth in his heart, seeing how emotional he was. Apart from feeling touched, he shook his head and said while smiling, "Wu Shuang, although you destroyed your sword body for me, you've become a human by chance. It means that you're no longer a sword spirit from now on. You're a human." Yi Chun paused as he spoke to this point and said, "I, Yi Chun, am no longer the mad, southern immortal venerable or the eastern heavenly emperor. I'm a husband and a child's father now. I need you to be my brother and even my family." "Brother? Family?" Jian Wushuang was slightly startled. He then lowered his head and said, "Wu Shuang doesn't dare. Wu Shuang is only willing to be a sharp sword in Master's hand. When the day comes, I will accompany Master to kill our way back to the 9 heavens and kill all the traitors." "What? You don't want to be my brother?" Yi Chen pulled a long face on purpose. "I dare not." Yi Chen walked over and patted his shoulder. "Since you dare not, do as I say. From now on, you're my brother. I'll give you the surname Yi. You'll be called Yi Wushuang from now on." "Master." There was a hint of gratitude on Wu Shuang's cold face. He only corrected himself when he saw Yi Chen's face turn grim. "Be brother. That's more like it." Yi Chen's expression softened. He lifted his eyes to look at the sky. "I don't have many brothers left. Night Demon, that old thing, was beaten into pieces to protect me. The warden might have lost his mind to my traitorous disciple. Back then, he had the grade 9 immortal weapon, the Heavenly Emperor's sword, and the grade 9 defensive immortal weapon, the Night Demon armor. Now, only Wu Shuang had returned to his side. He looked a little sad. That's why I cherish the thousands of years we've spent together. I cherish you guys even more. Brother, I found a fragment of Night Demon on Mount Wangwu." Wu Shuang said slowly. He took out a metal piece the size of a tortoise shell. Yi Chen took it and looked at it. His expression kept changing. It's indeed a fragment of night demon. There's still his aura left on it. Could this old thing have been sent to Earth? I only found this piece on Mount Wangwu. Wu Shuang said in a deep voice. Therefore, I suspect that night demon is not dead. Brother, you're the heavenly emperor and a true dragon. Although you're temporarily down, Wu Shuang, please don't give up. If night demon is still alive, it means that your old brothers are waiting for you silently. Also, we still have 100,000 heavenly soldiers. Where did 100,000 heavenly soldiers come from? Yi Chen frowned. Wu Shuang said slowly, have you forgotten? Your youngest disciple, Yi Zhao, was ordered to lead 100,000 troops to the astral world to exterminate the astral bandits. I believe that when you return to the immortal world in the future, Yi Zhao will definitely lead 100,000 heavenly soldiers to help you. Note, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. Yi Zhao. Yi Chen nodded lightly, looking nostalgic. He's a good kid. I won't ask him to help me. I only hope that he can live and not fall into his first senior brother's hands. In the garden of the Imperial Wind Pavilion, Su Yuwei and Ning Rulin stood in the corner, glaring at each other. None of them blinked. An invisible smell of gunpowder spread around. Su Yuwei was the first to break the atmosphere. She scoffed and said, Hey, were you guys leaving? The second mistress of the Su family was pissed. She was pissed. This girl who appeared out of nowhere was shameless. She called Brother Wu Shuang like a little vixen. What pissed her off the most was that the little vixen used the same perfume as her. Why do you care when we leave? Ning Rulin scoffed. Sister Su asked us to stay for a few more days. She's the host, and you're not. You're already an adult, yet you still want to steal my brother Wu Shuang. How shameless. I gotta know Brother Wu Shuang first. I'm the one who loves him. You're just a mistress. Su Yuwei was enraged. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Do you want to fight? Sure. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Ning Rulin refused to be outdone. She rolled up her sleeves as she spoke. Su Yuwei's heart skipped a beat. She was a little unconfident. Try touching me. Ning Rulin stepped forward and pushed her immediately. I'm going to touch you. What's wrong with that? It's my first time seeing someone like you in my life. I can't believe that you're asking me to touch you. Su Yuwei, the former second mistress of the Su family, had never been bullied like this. She was enraged and charged at Ning Rulin after taking a few steps back. The duo began fighting while grabbing each other's hair and choking each other. The Patriarch of Hell could not close his eyes while wagging his tail. He was mumbling to himself as if he wanted the world to be in chaos. What's the use of choking her? Pinch her chest. Yes, that's it. Use more force. P.S. The 5th chapter is late. Today's update is over. Everyone has an emergency. Firstly, I didn't ask for leave. Secondly, I haven't stopped updating. I hope everyone can be polite. If you can't accept it, you can read other books. Others update 2 or 3 times a day. They even stop updating from time to time. Chapter 248. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 248. Wu Shuang's Past. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Add a bookmark. Chapter 248. Wu Shuang's Past. A few of them stood at the entrance of the Imperial Wind Pavilion a day later. Sob, sob, sob. Ning Rulin looked at Wu Shuang with tears in her eyes. Brother Wu Shuang, can you come back to Luoyang with us? I can't bear to leave you. Ning Zuan stood aside, having a headache over his daughter. The father and daughter planned to go back after staying at the Imperial Wind Pavilion for a night. After all, it was impossible for them to stay there forever. Moreover, they had things to deal with in Luoyang. Yi Chen watched all of this with interest. Regarding the matter of Ning Rulin liking Wu Shuang, he had already seen it. To be honest, he quite appreciated Ning Rulin's straightforward character, but in the end, it still depended on Wu Shuang's own choice. However, Wu Shuang stood there quietly. There was no expression on his face as he rejected Ning Rulin's request with silence. Now that he had found Yi Chen, how could he leave? Su Yuwei, who was standing aside, rubbed her chest that was throbbing. Pride filled her eyes when she looked at Ning Rulin. However, she clenched her teeth when she recalled what happened yesterday. She thought it would be a piece of cake for her to deal with an 18-year-old girl since she was older and stronger. Never had she thought that Ning Ruolin would be an ancient martial artist. Not only did Ning Ruolin torture her, but she could not stop pinching her chest, causing her pain for the entire night. Ning Ruolin was a little annoyed seeing that Wu Shuang said nothing. She said with her hands on her hips, "Brother Wu Shuang, it's fine if you don't want to go back with us. However, you can't flirt around when I'm not around." Shock flashed through Wu Shuang's handsome face. And NB tip, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading, SP. When have I ever flirted? Moreover, who are you to control me? You're so handsome. There must be shameless women who seduce you shamelessly. You must learn to protect yourself. Ning Ruolin glanced at Su Yuwei as she spoke to this point. What are you talking about? Su Yuwei exploded. How could she not understand that Ning Ruolin was implying something about her? All right, seeing that the two were about to start arguing again, Ning Zuan hurriedly interrupted. He then looked at Wu Shuang with a complicated expression. If you're free, you can come to Luoyang. The Ning family will always welcome you. The young man in front of him was someone he thought highly of, and he even had the intention of marrying his daughter to him. However, after interacting with him for the past few days, he could tell that this young man was the kind of person who only cared about the Tao and did not understand the relationship between a man and a woman. It could be said that he was a sword maniac. Wu Shuang nodded slightly, expressing his stance. Mr. Yi, thank you for your hospitality. It's time for us to leave. Ning Ziyuan clasped his fists at Yichun. Yichun smiled faintly. You're too kind, Master Ning. I should be the one thanking you. If the Ning clan has any difficulties in the future, I, Yichun, will definitely help if I can. Not only had Wu Shuang taken the Ning family's treasure, the great Thunder Sword, but he had also stolen their only daughter's heart. Therefore, Yichun was rather grateful to the Ning family. Ning Ziyuan nodded and led Ning Ruolin to the BMW at the entrance. Ning Ruolin turned her head and said reluctantly, Brother Wu Shuang, you must visit me when you're free. She got in the car after saying that, and the car drove away. Su Yuwei turned around and walked into the Imperial Wind Pavilion like a winner. She was indescribably happy. Yichun looked at Wu Shuang and said while smiling, Tell me, who do you like? I'll be your matchmaker. Brother, please don't make fun of me. A hint of bitterness appeared on Wu Shuang's cold face when she heard that. I've never thought about that. I just want to stay by your side and never leave you. You can get a girlfriend to stay by my side too. Yichun was in between tears and laughter. He looked at Wu Shuang closely and was actually a little jealous. I wonder what exactly you've been through to have such a beautiful face. It's fortunate that you didn't become a movie actor. Otherwise, you'd be able to kill Kai Shukuan and Lu Han within seconds. Let's go. Tell me what you've been through. Yichun led him into the Imperial Wind Pavilion as he spoke. The duo walked around the Imperial Wind Pavilion's garden side by side. When did you come to Earth? Yichun asked. Wu Shuang nodded lightly. 3 months ago, I encountered a spatial tear when you extracted my sword spirit and sent me to the lower realm. I lost consciousness after that. When I woke up, I found myself lying at the foot of Mount Tai. I even had an extra body out of nowhere. 3 months ago, Yichun thought to himself and realized that Wu Shuang had traveled to Earth at about the same time. They were only 3 to 4 days apart. Wu Shuang said, I was severely injured back then. A sloppy old Taoist priest who was passing by saved me. He healed me and wanted to take me in as his disciple, but I didn't agree. A sloppy old Taoist priest? Stunned, Yichun asked, Where's he? Note, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. He's dead. Wu Shuang said coldly as if he did not care. However, a glint of sadness flashed deep in his cold eyes. When I went to Wudong sect to challenge the Wudong sect leader for the Taiji sword, I was ambushed by an expert on my way down the mountain. The opponent was very powerful. He severely injured me with a single move. He saved me at the critical moment. Was he killed by the person who ambushed you? Yichun asked in his deep voice. No, Wu Shuang shook his head lightly. He was poisoned to death. He was heavily poisoned before that, so he couldn't fight. Otherwise, the poison would spread faster. That was why he wanted to take me in as his disciple, so that he could pass on his legacy. Wu Shuang lifted his eyes to look at the sky as he spoke to this point. The poison attacked his heart to save me. I promised to mourn for him for 3 months. 3 months later, I found out that he was from the Su family of Mount Wangwu. The poison in his body was caused by the Su family in the early years. Therefore, I carried his coffin to Mount Wangwu to demand an explanation. If Yi Chun was Wu Shuang's only family in this world, then the old Taoist priest was considered half a family. After all, the old Taoist priest was not related to him, but he treated him sincerely. He even risked his life to save him. That was the reason why he was willing to carry the old Taoist priest's coffin and kill his way into Mount Wangwu with his sword to destroy the 4 families. Although Wu Shuang was cold, at least he knew how to repay kindness. What a pity! Yi Chun sighed. If he had met Wu Shuang earlier, he might have been able to resolve the speed in the old Taoist priest. He would not have died from the poison. At that moment, Lin Tai walked over in a hurry. He looked rather anxious. My lord, something has happened. The Martial Alliance has issued a kill order for you. A kill order? Yi Chun frowned. Standing aside, Wu Shuang's expression turned cold. Lin Tai took a deep breath in and said, The Martial Alliance accused you of killing 5 of their masters. They said that you're cruel and heartless, so they want you to give them an explanation? Interesting. Yi Chun smiled instead of being mad. A mocking smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. I haven't even asked them for an explanation, but they're accusing me instead. How interesting. P.S. Chapter 1. Chapter 249. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 249. Martial Alliance Kill Order. Urban Romance. Jikikms. Add a bookmark. Chapter 249. Martial Alliance Kill Order. Yi Chun said after noticing that Lin Tai was hesitating to speak. Yi Chun said while raising his brows. Anything else? Lin Tai forced a smile. The Martial Alliance's kill order has gathered all of the ancient martial artists in China to kill you. Moreover, the reward is a breakthrough pill. Breakthrough pill? What's that? Yi Chun asked. Lin Tai shook his head. I've no idea what it is exactly, but I heard that it's the Martial Alliance's secret medicinal pill. It's specially made for ancient martial artists to break through. His expression turned rather grim as he spoke to this point. My lord, what should we do now? As the name suggested, the Martial Alliance was an alliance of ancient martial artists. It was above all ancient martial artists. There were many experts in it, unlike wealthy families like the Su family. Although his lord was powerful, how could he fight a giant like the Su family? Brother, why don't we get Wu Shuang to go there with his sword? I'll definitely destroy the Martial Alliance. Standing aside, Wu Shuang's eyes were cold. Before this, he was the sword in Yi Chun's hand. Now, he was Yi Chun's brother. No matter what, he would not allow anyone to provoke Yi Chun. Don't worry about it. Yi Chun squinted as killing intent flashed through his eyes. I like to see how exactly they're going to kill me. Mad Southern Yi is ruthless. He killed 5 of our Martial Alliance's masters. What he's doing is arrogant. He's openly looking down on our Martial Alliance's position in the ancient martial world and the Iron Law. Today, Mad Southern Yi's #1 title on the Heaven Leaderboard is revoked. At the same time, I'm issuing a kill order. The Martial Alliance will reward anyone who kills Mad Southern Yi with 1 pill. Reminder, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. At the same time, he'll be appointed as the Martial Alliance's deputy chief. As the Martial Alliance's kill order was announced, the entire ancient martial world in China was in an uproar. Nobody expected the Martial Alliance to issue a kill order for Yi Chun. One of them was a giant that ruled over all ancient martial artists, while the other was #1 on the Heaven Leaderboard. Theoretically, both of them would mind their own business. However, they had fallen out with each other. Without a doubt, this was like a raging wave that completely swept through the entire ancient martial arts world of China. Everyone was so shocked that they were in disbelief. Apart from the shock, Yi, in order to deal with Mad Southern Yi, the Martial Alliance had put in so much effort and was willing to take out the few breakthrough pills. The so-called Zong Breakthrough Pill was an elixir concocted by the Martial Alliance. To all ancient martial art practitioners, it was no different from magical elixir. The effect of such an elixir was that it could allow any ancient martial art practitioner below the level of a grandmaster to immediately break through to become a grandmaster after consuming it. Woo woo woo. Tion 1, although woo, 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 comma, woo, woo, ye woo 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 woo. If an ancient martial artist at the peak of the inborn stage consumed it, he might even have the chance to become a martial venerable. Of course, this was only a hope. After all, there had not been a martial venerable in China for 100 years. However, even a trace of hope was enough to make everyone go crazy, especially those martial Dao masters who had been stuck at the advanced stage of the Xiantian realm. They didn't have much time left, so how could they sit back and watch their time come? Even though Yi Chun was the #1 in China and had powerful abilities, he could not stop their madness. As the saying went, the timid would starve to death, and the bold would die from overeating. All of a sudden, the entire ancient martial arts world of China was like a sea with a gust of wind. The seawater looked calm, but in reality, there were surging undercurrents. In a Taoist temple in the depths of the 100,000 mountains, an old Taoist was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Suddenly, a little Taoist boy walked in quickly and whispered something into his ear. The old Taoist's eyes suddenly opened, and they were as sharp as lightning. Ancestor-breaking pill? Martial Alliance actually has something like that? I must get it. I've been stuck in a late Khanate stage for more than 20 years, and I'm over 90 now. If I don't break through soon, I won't be able to escape death when my time comes. When he said this, his whole body was trembling. He was trembling with excitement. Mad Southern Yi, you were very powerful. If it were any other time, I wouldn't want to be your enemy no matter what. However, I can't do that now. Who asked you to offend the Martial Alliance? Who asked me to have the hope of breaking through if I kill you? In a magnificent temple in the Tibetan area, 2 lamas dressed in yellow kasayas were sitting on prayer mats. One of them was an old lama in his 80s, while the other was a young lama in his 30s. The young lama looked bitter. Rinpoche, are you sure you want to go? Serene, after I leave, you will inherit the mean temple. The old lama was senile, and his eyes were cloudy. I'll either die in Mad Southern Ye's hands or comprehend the innate stage and extend my lifespan by another 100 years. With that, the old lama walked out of the temple with his staff in hand. Scenes like this were happening all over the country at almost the same time. In the end, they converged into a powerful undercurrent that attacked Beijing, inside the secret chamber of the Imperial Wind Pavilion. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended. Reading a red spear appeared before Yi Chun. He took a closer look and realized that it was by Zhen Yuan's half-spiritual weapon. Although this item is not a magic artifact, it is not inferior. In addition, it was obtained from the tailbone of a demon snake. It can be broken down into materials to forge other magic artifacts. Why don't I refine a magic tool for self-defense for Meng Meng? It can also be a way to protect her. Thinking of this, Yi Chun waved his sleeve, and countless refining materials floated before him. He spat true essence fire out of his mouth. The true essence fire wrapped around the red spear and began to melt it slowly. If Bai Zhanyan was still alive, he would have been enraged to see the half-spiritual weapon that he refined painstakingly disintegrated just like that. Soon, the spear was completely disintegrated into a pool of red liquid that floated in the air. Yi Chun waved his arm, and another portion of the refining materials leaped into the air. They were melted into liquid under the true fire. Fuse. Yi Chun performed hand seals with both hands and performed hand seals on the liquid that floated in the air. The liquid melted into a ball at that moment, as if it was boiling. It didn't take long for it to condense into a hoop. It looked a little like a hula hoop, but it was slightly smaller than a hula hoop. Its entire body shone with a silver metallic luster. Since it's a defensive Dharma treasure, it naturally needs to be inscribed with a defensive formation. Apart from protecting itself, it can also trap and injure people. It can also be like a Dharma treasure that can change its size at will. That's why it needs a Dharma treasure. Yi Chun pondered for a while rubbing his chin. He extended his arm again and carved dense formations on the silver circle. The formations integrated into the silver circle like wriggling runes. Finally, it took shape. Half an hour later, Yi-chun waved his hand, and the silver hoop landed in his hand. It shone with a dazzling glow while faintly emitting spiritual energy. I've used up all my materials, but it's only a mid-grade magic tool. At the end of the day, I still don't have enough spiritual energy. Yi-chun shook his head lightly and said in his deep voice, "I'll call you Heaven and Earth Ring from now on." After saying that, he put away the universe ring and walked out, intending to give his daughter a surprise. P.S. Chapter 2. Chapter 250. The Genius Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 250. The Magical Use of the Heaven and Earth Hoop. Urban Romance CMS. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 250. The Magical Use of the Heaven and Earth Hoop in the Living Room. There's a lot of food placed before Meng Meng at the moment. Ning Ruolin had bought them earlier. Both of them were foodies, so it was only natural that they appreciated each other. However, Ning Ruolin was the kind of person who did not gain weight by eating. On the other hand, the little girl gained weight no matter how much she ate. Su Yuhan had been holding a grudge against Yi-chun. After Ning Ruolin left, the little girl was a little reluctant at first. Then, she smiled happily because nobody was fighting with her for food anymore. Yi Wushuang sat aside quietly. There was a faint smile in his eyes when he looked at the little girl. She was his eldest brother's daughter, his only bloodline. If his eldest brother was still in the immortal world, she would be the heavenly emperor's daughter, the daughter of an immortal. She would inherit his throne in the future and become a powerful empress who ruled over the world. "Uncle Wushuang, do you want cake?" The little girl seemed to be a little embarrassed to see him staring at her. She took a box of cake from the table and gave it to him after some hesitation. Yi Wushuang shook his head lightly, his gaze becoming gentler. The little girl looked at him while blinking. "Uncle Wushuang, why don't you like to talk and smile? My teacher told me to smile more. A smile will make you look 10 years younger." Yi Wushuang was stunned for a moment. A smile appeared on his cold, handsome face, but it was not obvious. He was a proud person who was not good with words. He would only cooperate with Meng Meng. If it were someone else, he would treat them coldly. At that moment, Yi-chun walked out of the room. "Daddy, Uncle Wushuang is smiling. I'm treating him to cake, but he doesn't want it." The little girl ran over without even wiping her mouth. Yi-chun stretched his arm out and wiped her mouth. He said, "Don't eat so much. Look at how fat you are. Your mommy will scold me for spoiling you if she sees this." "But it's really delicious," the little girl mumbled. Yi-chun could not help but laugh. He secretly made up his mind to refine a weight loss pill for her, the kind that would not make her fat even if she ate it. Subsequently, a silver circle appeared on his hand. It was approximately the size of a palm. "Dad, what is this?" The little fellow's eyes immediately widened. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Yi-chun thought about it and said, "This is a toy that Daddy gave you. It's for self-defense. Do you like it?" Meng Meng likes it. The little fellow's eyes lit up, and he eagerly reached out to take it. He sized it up, and his eyes were filled with joy. Yi-chun grabbed her hand and cut her finger gently. "Daddy, it hurts." The little guy took a deep breath. "Hold on." Yi-chun comforted her and dripped her blood on the heaven and earth ring. The blood disappeared within the blink of an eye. "Now, Daddy will teach you how to use it." Yi-chun picked up the heaven and earth hoop and demonstrated. "Enlarge." His voice fell. The universe ring instantly doubled in size. Bigger. The Qianquan ring became like a pot lid. Shrink. Smaller. As soon as Yi-chun was done speaking, the heaven and earth ring shrunk from the size of a pot lid to the size of a palm. The little girl was dazzled. "Daddy, it's so magical." "It's magical, isn't it?" Yi-chun chuckled softly. "Try it now." The little girl could not stop nodding. She expanded and shrunk again, smiling happily. "Daddy, is this little Nez's hoop?" "I guess so." Yi-chun was stunned at first. Then he said while smiling, "This is for you to protect yourself. You must always wear on your hand. If you encounter bad guys, toss it out to fight them." "Yes, yes." The little girl smiled sweetly. At that moment, The Patriarch of Hell walked in while shaking his head. The little girl's eyes lit up. She took off the heaven and earth hoop and tossed it at the Patriarch directly. The heaven and earth hoop grew in the wind and landed on the Patriarch's head accurately. The Patriarch of Hell was dumbstruck. "What's going on?" Before he could react, he heard the little girl shout, "Shrink." The Patriarch felt the metal hoop on him shrink all of a sudden. He rolled his eyes and could not catch his breath. Magic tool. The Patriarch snapped back to his senses. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. "MMP, who did I offend? You can't bully me like that." Seeing that the heaven and earth hoop was shrinking, the Patriarch spoke through voice transmission immediately. "Master, please spare me. I shouldn't have encouraged Ning Ruolin to pinch your sister-in-law's chest." He thought Yi Chun had taught him a lesson with a magic tool because he had found out what he had done earlier. Yi Wushuang, who was standing aside, sensed the divine consciousness fluctuation as soon as he spoke through voice transmission. He could not help but look at the Patriarch. "All right." Yi Chun caressed the little girl's face. The little girl stuck her tongue out and extended her arm to wave at the Patriarch. The heaven and earth hoop flew back to her hand. "Don't play with it in the future. Do you hear me?" Yi Chun reminded with a straight face. He was really afraid that the little girl would use it on ordinary people. Tip: please rest your eyes when you read for a long time. Recommended reading. The little girl loved it. Yes, I understand. After regaining his freedom, the Patriarch realized that Wu Shuang could not stop staring at him. He rolled his eyes angrily. "Why are you looking at a pretty boy?" Yi Wushuang looked away coldly and looked at Yi Chun. Clearly, he realized that the Patriarch of Hell was not as simple as a dog. Yi Chun could only tell him about the Patriarch situation through voice transmission. Yi Wushuang came to a realization. At that moment, Su Yuhan walked in with Su Yuwei. She said while smiling, "Yi Chun, Yuwei said that she's not feeling well. I want to take her to the hospital." Yi Chun could not help but look at Su Yuwei. "Are you sick? Let me take a look at you." "In no need." Su Yuwei's pretty face blushed, and she rejected immediately. Her chest was hurting from Ning Ruolin's pinch until now. Even though she knew that Yi Chun had medical skills, it was impossible for her to let him take a look. After all, it was a sensitive position. Su Yuhan said after returning to her room to change, "Then, we'll go to the hospital. We'll be back soon. We'll go to the market to buy some groceries on our way back and cook." "Wait." Yi Chun suddenly stopped her and said, "Let Wu Shuang go with you guys. Otherwise, I'll be worried." Now that the Martial Alliance had issued a kill order on him, Su Yuhan did not have any cultivation base at all. He was worried about her going out alone. Su Yuhan nodded and led Yi Wushuang out. Su Yuwei, on the other hand, became nervous. She blushed and did not dare to look at Yi Wushuang. After they left, Yi Chun played with his daughter in the house for a while and taught her how to use the heaven and earth ring. Lin Tai walked in quickly. "My lord, Yang Junlin is here. He wants to see you." "Why is he here?" Yi Chun was stunned, but he said anyway, "Let him in." Then he said to the little girl, "My good daughter, you and Buttface go outside to play for a while. Daddy wants to meet a guest." Soon, Lin Tai led someone in. It was Yang Junlin, but there was an old man in a gray robe behind him. P.S. Chapter 3. Chapter 251. The Genius Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 251. Yang Junlin visits. City Romance. Jikikms. At a bookmark. Chapter 251. Yang Junlin's visit. Yang Junlin was still wearing the purple robe he wore last time. His aura was hidden, but the gray-robed old man behind him looked arrogant. There was coldness between his brows. After Lin Tai brewed tea for the two of them and left, Yang Junlin smiled apologetically. "I came to disturb you, Supreme Yi. Please forgive me." "Don't worry about it." "Who's this?" Yi Chun shook his head lightly and looked at the gray-robed old man next to him. He could sense that the old man had a martial down master cultivation base, but he seemed to be quite hostile toward him. Yang Junlin said, "This is Elder Sun from the Martial Alliance." Elder Sun scoffed upon hearing that. He looked very arrogant. "The Martial Alliance?" Yi Chun frowned and said to Yang Junlin wryly, "Brother Yang, You must have heard about what happened between me and the Martial Alliance, but you brought an elder from the Martial Alliance to see me today. Yang Junlin said solemnly. I found out about the grudge between Supremacy Yi and the Martial Alliance. That's why I took the liberty to bring Elder Sun here. I want to be a mediator and resolve the grudge between Supremacy Yi and the Martial Alliance. Resolve? Yi Chun chuckled softly. You've already issued a kill order on me. Why are you here to resolve it now? Yang Junlin could not help but look at Elder Sun next to him. Elder Sun, tell him. The government doesn't want to see this happen either. In short, it's best to resolve this. Elder Sun got up and looked directly at Yi Chun. He said while smirking, You've crossed the line by killing 5 masters from my Martial Alliance, including Elder Foam. It's not impossible to resolve this as long as you cripple your cultivation base. As soon as he said that, note, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Yang Junlin's expression changed drastically. Elder Sun, never had he thought that the Martial Alliance's request would be so outrageous. To an ancient martial artist, cultivation base was more important than their life. Clearly, the Martial Alliance did not want to resolve this. You want me to cripple my cultivation base? Yi Chun laughed. Elder Sun placed his hands behind his back and said condescendingly, That's right. Destroy your own cultivation. Mad Southern Yi, I admit that you're very powerful as the #1 on the Heaven leaderboard. However, don't think that the Martial Alliance can't do anything to you. If you're smart, destroy your own cultivation now and follow me back to the Martial Alliance to be judged. Elder Sun, that's not what you said to me before we came. Yang Junlin's expression darkened. He was ordered by #1 to mediate the conflict between the Martial Alliance and Yi Chun. Never had he thought that Elder Sun, who had been rather nice to him earlier, would change his mind after seeing Yi Chun. He would make such an outrageous request. Was he looking down on Yang Junlin? Elder Sun smirked. I did think about resolving the grudge between us earlier, but that was under the premise that Mad Southern Yi had a good attitude. Now, my Martial Alliance is regretting it. Yang Junlin flew into a rage. Yi Chun waved his hand to stop him. He said to Elder Sun wryly, You've told me your Martial Alliance's request. Isn't it my turn to make a request now? How dare you make a request? Elder Sun thought he heard it wrong. He said while snickering, Mad Southern Yi, I'm warning you to know your place. Do you know that all the powerhouses in China will be your enemy as soon as the Martial Alliance's kill order is released? Yi Chun did not comment. He said while squinting, I think you're mistaken. I'm not the one who should be afraid. It's the Martial Alliance. My Martial Alliance is afraid? What a joke. Elder Sun laughed out of rage. Yi Chun said expressionlessly, My request is simple. If you want me to let the Martial Alliance go, get your chief to kneel and apologize to me. You're so arrogant, brat. Elder Sun was shaking from rage. Great, very great. If that's the case, there's nothing more to talk about between us. You're seeking death. He flung his sleeve in an attempt to leave after saying that. Wait, Yi Chun said in a timely manner. Elder Sun turned his head and said while smirking, What? Do you regret it? I don't want a dog to stand and talk to me. Yi Chun shook his head lightly and said coldly, Kneel. As soon as he said that, an extremely powerful pressure exploded from his body. Under this pressure, Yang Junlin and Elder Sun's expressions changed. Especially Elder Sun, he felt an incomparably terrifying pressure pressing down on him like a mountain, causing him to kneel on the ground with a thud. Yi Chun, you're courting death. Elder Sun looked at Yi Chun with a face full of resentment. He was terrified. It was his first time experiencing how terrifying Yi Chun was. He did not expect Yi Chun to be able to suppress him with just his aura. Yang Junlin, who was standing aside, was also shocked because he felt like he could not resist Yi Chun's pressure. He said after some hesitation, Venerable Yi, don't be rash. The government, Brother Yang, don't use the government to pressure me. Yi Chun interrupted him and glared coldly at Elder Sun, who was kneeling on the ground. It seems like Feng Kuai didn't deliver my message. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. What are you trying to do? There was fear in Elder Sun's eyes. Yi-chan flicked his finger, and a golden flame shot into his body. I've prepared a big gift for your Martial Alliance chief. Please tell him that I, Yi-chan, will come to your Martial Alliance mountain gate with my sword in 2 days. I'll destroy the Martial Alliance. As soon as he was done speaking, Elder Sun felt that he could move again. Elder Sun felt that he could move again. He glared at Yi-chan with a malicious expression. What did you do to me? Get lost. Yi-chan waved his sleeve, and Elder Sun felt energy coming at him. His expression changed as he ran toward the door. He said while running, Yi-chan, I guarantee that you'll regret this. Thank you, Venerable Yi. Yang Junlin got up and clasped his fists at Yi-chan in all seriousness. He knew that Yi-chan had the ability to kill Elder Sun earlier. The reason why he did not do anything was purely to save face for him. Don't worry about it. Brother Yang meant well. Yi-chan shook his head lightly and said with a scoff, However, the Martial Alliance thinks too highly of themselves. I can't believe they sent someone to get me to cripple my cultivation base. Venerable Yi, there's something that I'm not sure if I should say. Yang Junlin sighed and looked hesitant. Yi-chan nodded and said, Go ahead. You're no match for the Martial Alliance. Yang Junlin suddenly said something very incisive. Why? Yi-chan looked calm. Yang Junlin took a good look at him and said, Although you're number 1 on the heaven leaderboard and your combat strength is on par with a half-step martial venerable, you're still no match for the Martial Alliance. Have you ever thought about how the Martial Alliance is above all ancient martial artists? Have you ever thought that the Martial Alliance's foundation isn't as simple as it looks since they're able to get the breakthrough pill? Yi-chan smiled and said nothing. He knew how powerful the Martial Alliance was. However, was he someone to be messed with? Yang Junlin took a deep breath in and said, Many people don't know that the Martial Alliance has a big secret. P.S. Chapter 4. Chapter 252. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 252. The Secret of the Martial Alliance. Urban Romance. G-Kickums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 252. The Martial Alliance's Secret. Yi-chan could not help but look at him. Big secret. Not bad. Yang Junlin nodded and said, The Martial Alliance was founded 600 years ago during the Wanli era. It hasn't fallen for 600 years and has always been prosperous because it's a subsidiary force of Shang Santian in the secular world. You mean Shang Santian's lackey? Yi-chan said while smiling. Yang Junlin looked shocked, but he admitted it anyway. Throughout the past 600 years, the Martial Alliance has gone through the change of dynasties. There have been a few crises of annihilation. However, as soon as the crisis appeared, it was resolved. Did Shang Santian attack? Yi-chan asked. Yang Junlin nodded lightly. That's right. If you destroy the Martial Alliance, you'll definitely attract the people from Shang Santian. That's why I said you're no match for the Martial Alliance. That's why the government doesn't want to see that. To him, although Yi-chan was powerful, he could only dominate the secular world at most. However, he was far from enough to face people from Shang Santian. No one knew how terrifying Shang Santian was better than him. Yi-chan was non-committal. To put it bluntly, the upper 3 heavens was a group of even more powerful ancient martial arts practitioners. If he was also an ancient martial arts practitioner, perhaps he would be wary. However, he was a cultivator. There was nothing that could not be destroyed by a single sword strike. Yang Junlin spoke again. Also, the current chief of the Martial Alliance, Sikong Ao, ranked number 1 on the Heaven Leaderboard in China 50 years ago. The Heaven Leaderboard only counts ancient martial artists below 60 years old. Once they're over 60 years old, they'll be automatically removed from the leaderboard. And this Sikong Ao disappeared from the Heaven Leaderboard after he turned 60? Yi-chan asked with interest. He finally understood why the age of the people on the Heaven Roll was not very old, and why it did not change once every 20 years. It turned out that there was such a big secret hidden within. Yes. Yang Junlin nodded slightly. Supreme, you should understand now, right? The Heaven list was not as simple as it looked. It might seem like there were only 100 people on it, but in reality, it had been 50 years. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Countless people have been on the list. After these people left the list, some died, some went into seclusion, and their strength became even more terrifying than before. He paused for a moment before he continued. Meanwhile, Yin Nanfei, Li Yun Xiao, and I are considered as powerhouses of the younger generation at most. There are many hidden old monsters behind us. So, do you think there's a martial Dao venerable among these people? Yichen suddenly asked. He was more concerned about that. Yang Junlin was stunned. Then he shook his head and said, I don't think so. However, even if no one has broken through to martial venerable, I believe that someone is definitely not far from it. Although they are still martial Dao masters, they're not people we can compare with. Yi Chun smiled, understanding what he meant. It was like two gas canisters of the same size. One of them was filled to the brim, while the other one was clearly full. However, it did not increase the pressure, allowing it to store more gas. In this way, although they were both gas canisters, once they were detonated, the power would naturally be different. At the same time, on Hanzhong Street, Su Yuhan and Su Yue walked on the road while carrying the groceries. Yi Wushuang was half a step behind them. He smiled coldly and said nothing. With his handsome looks, the women who passed by could not help but look at him. There were even women who took the initiative to walk over to ask for his contact number or invite him to dinner. However, he rejected all of them coldly. Su Yue was secretly upset to see that. Upon seeing that, Su Yuhan leaned closer to her and asked softly, Have you really fallen for Wu Shuang? Sister, didn't you say that he's already 25 years old and it's time for him to consider his feelings? Su Yue's pretty face blushed, and her voice was as soft as a mosquito. She turned her head to look at Yi Wushuang behind her by instinct after speaking. She was relieved to see that he was looking straight ahead, as if he did not hear her. That's rare. Su Yuhan clicked her tongue in wonder. I thought that your future boyfriend would either be from a wealthy family or a soldier in the military. I can't believe you've changed. Sister, you're teasing me again. Su Yue stamped her feet. Just as she was about to say something, she heard a commotion in front of her. A woman with disheveled hair ran over, and behind her were more than a dozen fierce men. Help, help! The lady was approximately 30 years old. She screamed as she ran and ran towards Su Yuhan and the rest in a panic. There was a smirk flickering on her seemingly panicked face. Just when she was about to get close to Su Yuhan and the rest, a white silhouette blocked her way. You'll die if you take another step. Save me, I beg you. The woman's face was full of panic. Upon seeing that, Su Yuhan and Su Yue, who were behind Yi Wushuang, walked out by instinct. Su Yuhan could not help but ask, Ma'am, may I know why they're chasing you? My ex-husband ran away from gambling debts, so they're chasing me to pay him back. They even said that they're going to sell me to Thailand to be a prostitute. The lady knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Su Yuhan. Please, save me. Save me. At the same time, the over 10 hunks in the distance had caught up to them. Wu Shuang, why don't you save her? Su Yuhan looked like she could not bear to see that. Yi Wushuang's expression was cold. Sister-in-law, let's not be nosy. Hey, can you not be so heartless? Su Yue glared at him angrily, feeling a little lost. Note, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. Wang said, Do you still have any sympathy? Sympathy? What's that? Yi Wushuang's expression was cold. I was wrong about you. I can't believe I like someone like you. Su Yue was furious. She pushed him away angrily and walked to the lady kneeling on the ground. Sister, don't be afraid. Stand behind us. They won't dare to touch you. After the 10 hunks caught up, a tanned hunk walked out from behind. Little b asterisk TCH, this is the 4C's gang's business. It's best that you stay out of it. I'm going to interfere. What will you do about it? Su Yue reached out to help the lady on the ground since Yi Wushuang was there. Just when her hand was about to touch the woman on the ground, the woman sneered and a dagger appeared in her hand. She suddenly leaped up and aimed at Su Yuhan, who was behind Su Yue. All of a sudden, Su Yue was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Su Yuhan was also stunned. She did not expect the weak and pitiful girl to suddenly kill someone. Die. Seeing that Su Yuhan was frozen in fear, the lady's face was filled with ferocity. Right at this moment, she suddenly felt a bone-piercing coldness coming from behind her, and she instinctively turned around to look. What welcomed her was the edge of a sword. Pucci. A large head rolled on the ground for more than 10 meters. The woman's eyes widened in disbelief. Up until the moment of her death, she had never imagined that the incredibly handsome young man who looked like a student was actually an expert. Just one strike. She was dead. This sudden scene scared the surrounding people so much that they temporarily forgot to speak. One by one, they opened their eyes wide, and their eyes were filled with terror. Hot blood splashed on Su Yue's face. Yi Wushuang walked to Su Yuhan quickly. There was a hint of nervousness on his cold expression. "Sister-in-law, are you all right?" To him, the sword earlier was not worth mentioning, and Su Yuhan's safety was the most important thing. P.S. Chapter 5. That's the end of today's update. Thank you for your support. Please give me recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 253. Murder, murder! As Yi Wushuang severed the head of the lady who wanted to assassinate Su Yuhan, the passers-by around were stunned for a moment before exclamations of fear broke out one after another. Even the dozen or so hunks who were chasing the lady earlier were shocked. They scattered like bees, afraid that they would end up like the lady. Su Yuhan snapped back to her senses and looked at the head on the ground. Her pretty face was a little pale. "I am fine." Until now, she was still in shock. She thought that the lady was in trouble and they wanted to save her. Never had she thought that the lady would suddenly kill someone. Moreover, the target was her. Phew! Su Yuhan heaved a sigh of relief as she thought to this point. She looked at Yi Wushuang gratefully. "Thank you so much, Wushuang." If Yi Wushuang had not killed her in time earlier, she would have been hurt. That was close. "Don't worry, sister-in-law. No one can hurt you with me here." Yi Wushuang's expression was cold as determination flashed through his eyes. Su Yuhan nodded lightly and only noticed Su Yuwei, who was on the ground. She was stunned to see Su Yuwei sitting on the ground without a care for her image. She was covering the blood on her face. "Wei Wei, are you all right?" Su Yuwei walked over and helped her up immediately. "Sob, sob, sob." Su Yuwei threw herself into Su Yuwei's embrace and cried while shaking. "Sister, I was scared to death just now. I almost thought you—" "All right, it's okay now." Su Yuhan comforted her. When she heard the siren of a police car in the distance, she said immediately, "Let's go, let's go." The group of them did not even bother to pick up the food that fell on the ground. They left the scene in a hurry. Su Yue only calmed down now. Her eyes were slightly red as she said guiltily, "Sister, it's all my fault. If I hadn't been a busybody, this wouldn't have happened." "I didn't expect that either." Su Yuhan patted her chest and looked at Yi Wushuang, who was next to her. "Wushuang, did you know that she was going to kill me?" She was not dumb, so she guessed the nature of the matter immediately. "Killing intent." Jian Wushuang stopped walking and said calmly, "I sensed killing intent on that lady." Any sword cultivator's heart would be extremely ethereal and even sensitive. They would be more sensitive to auras than anyone else. He sensed the woman's murderous intent the moment she appeared, which was why he did not let Su Yuhan and Su Yuwei meddle in their business. But Su Yuwei did not listen. At this point, Yi Wushuang glanced at Su Yuwei coldly. Although he did not say a word, the meaning behind his words was self-evident. Su Yuwei lowered her head aggrievedly, bit her lip, and said weakly, I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize to me." Yi Wushuang interrupted her with an extremely cold expression. "If anything happens to sister-in-law today, I'll kill you." To him, Yi Chun, Meng Meng, and Su Yuhan were the most important people in this world. Meanwhile, Su Yuwei was just a dispensable existence, even though she liked him. Su Yuwei's face turned pale. "All right, aren't I fine now? Let's go back." Su Yuhan tried to smooth things over immediately. Tianan, Forest City, Yi family. Yi Hai and his wife looked rather fearful when they saw the bunch of people rush into the house all of a sudden. "Who are you guys?" "I'm Lu Tong from the Martial Alliance." A middle-aged man in a green robe walked in. There was mockery in his eyes when he looked at Yi Hai and his wife. "What Martial Alliance? I've never heard of it. What are you guys trying to do?" Yi Hai protected his wife, Wu Lan, behind him tightly. He glared deadly at Lu Tong and the rest while holding a kitchen knife in his hand. It doesn't matter if I've heard of it or not. What's important is that you guys have a great son who killed 6 of our Martial Alliance elders. Lu Tong smiled coldly and waved his hand. Take him away. Take him away. 2 Martial Alliance members walked toward Yi Hai and his wife. Yi Hai was enraged. He could not stop waving the kitchen knife in his hand while glaring at them. I'd like to see who dares to come here. Initially, he thought the duo before him would be scared. Never had he thought that one of them would smirk in disdain and charge at him. He felt his arm go numb, and the kitchen knife fell onto the ground. Before he could react, the person moved and appeared before him all of a sudden. He slapped his chest, and Yi Hai fell onto the ground. Wulon was knocked out just when she was going to speak. Bring them back to the headquarters. Lu Tong waved. After his underlings brought Yi Hai and his wife out, a bag of explosives appeared in his hand all of a sudden. A smug smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Mad Southern Yi, so what if you're powerful? Your parents are your weakness, after all. This is the price you have to pay for going against the Martial Alliance. He would never forget the shock and psychological trauma the silhouette brought to him when he killed Yuan Bupo on the Surge River that day. He had run away after that. He thought he would behave himself and not offend Yi Chun. Never had he thought that Yi Chun would kill so many masters from the Martial Alliance after he went to Beijing. Apart from being shocked, he was over the moon. Nobody knew how powerful the Martial Alliance was better than him. Although Mad Southern Yi was powerful, he would definitely not end well after offending the Martial Alliance. Lu Tong lit a cigarette slowly as he thought to this point. Lu Tong slowly lit a cigarette, took a deep breath, and ignited the explosive fuse in his hand. Then, he casually threw it into the house, and his whole body turned into an afterimage as he rushed out. After leaping to the roadside downstairs, he blew a smoke ring and grinned. Bang! Bang! As a loud thud came, Yi Chen's house turned into ruins instantly. Countless people screamed in fear. Let's go! Lu Tong stepped on the cigarette, and got into the black BMW. He glanced at Yi Hai and his wife, who had fainted behind him. Less than 100 meters after the car started, a jeep drove over and blocked their way. As the car door opened, an old man and a young lady got out of the car directly. Lu Tong's expression turned serious. He walked to the duo after getting out of the car and said coldly, "Old Master Gu, what's the meaning of this? My family doesn't care what grudge the Martial Alliance has with Master Yi, but you guys can't touch his family. Family members shouldn't be implicated." Old Master Gu looked at the black BMW and subsequently sighed. Lu Tong smirked in rage. "Just the 2 of you? Don't forget that I, Lu Tong, have an illuminating pulse cultivation base while you and your granddaughter are merely on internal energy." Old Master Gu forced a smile and clasped his fists at the jeep behind him. "Junior Brother Zhang, please." Lu Tong's expression turned grim as soon as he said that. He could not help but look at the jeep. He saw a middle-aged man in a Taoist robe walk out. The aura he exuded was exactly the same as Lu Tong's. "Who are you?" Lu Tong's expression turned grim. The middle-aged man smiled calmly. "I'm Zhang Yulin, a 3rd-generation disciple of the Wudong sect. I'm here to protect Master Ye's family at Old Master Gu's request." Since when did Old Master Gu get involved with people from Wudong? Lu Tong's eyes could not stop flickering. Old Master Gu said, "I was a Taoist priest in Wudong when I was young, so I have a relationship with Wudong. Brother Lu, our abilities are similar. I don't want to fight you. Let go of Master Ye's parents and leave." Zhang Yulin bowed. Lu Tong laughed out loud all of a sudden. "Do you guys think you can stop me?" Chapter 254. Zhang Yulin frowned slightly upon seeing the smile on Lu Tong's face. Subsequently, Lu Tong turned around and bowed at the BMW. "Elder Wu, please help." As soon as he was done speaking, an extremely powerful energy shot out of the BMW all of a sudden. The energy tore the air apart and charged at Zhang Yulin. Bang! Zhang Yulin flew out directly. When he stood up, he stared deadly at the BMW. He was extremely shocked. A martial Dao master? Old Master Gu and Gu Yingying's hearts sank. How dare you interfere with the Martial Alliance's business? Get lost. An extremely old voice came from the car. The voice alone was enough to make Old Master Gu and the other two's ears ring. Zhang Yulin looked at Old Master Gu and forced a smile. Old Master Gu, I've tried my best. Initially, he did not want to interfere with the matter between the Martial Alliance and Yi Chun. It was purely because of Old Master Gu's pleading that he mustered the courage to save Yi Chen's parents. However, the other party had a martial Dao master. How could he fight him with his illuminating pulse cultivation base? Hall Master Lu, Old Master Gu shook his head lightly and said, have you considered that mad Southern Yi will kill his way into the Martial Alliance and kill everyone by attacking Master Ye's family today? He paused as he spoke to this point and said, you guys can't stop Master Yi from being enraged. Ha ha ha. Lu Tong laughed instead of being mad. Since my Martial Alliance dares to attack him, how can we not be prepared? Just you guys wait and see. Mad Southern Yi will definitely die soon. He returned to the car after saying that and urged the driver to start the car. He left right before Old Master Gu and the other two. Old Master Gu lifted his eyes and looked in the direction of Beijing. He mumbled to himself, Master Yi, my family has tried our best. After sending Yang Junlin off, Yi Chun saw Su Yuhan and the other two return. However, Su Yuhan and Su Yue looked terrible, especially Su Yue. She was still in shock. Just when Yi Chun was going to say something, Su Yuhan ran into his embrace and hugged his neck tightly. What happened? Yi Chen's expression turned grim. He could sense that Su Yuhan was shaking a little when she was hugging him. She seemed to be frightened by something. Don't talk. Let me be alone. Su Yuhan took a deep breath and buried her head in his embrace. Yi Chen could not help but look at Yi Wushuang, who was next to him. Yi Wushuang told him about the assassination on the way back. Bang! Yi Chen smashed the table in front of him with his palm and looked at Su Yue coldly. Su Yue, you're so kind. If she had not helped the lady would not have had the chance to assassinate her at all. Yi Wushuang had reminded her, but she still wanted to save her. What was funny was that this woman was simply being compassionate. Frightened, Su Yue hurriedly buried her head, covered her mouth, and cried, It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Forget it. It's not all Yue's fault. Who would have thought that this would happen? Su Yuhan let go of Yi Chun immediately and forced a stiff smile on her face. Yi Chun glanced at Su Yue coldly and asked, Wu Shuang, who are they? I've no idea, but it seems like he's an assassin. Yi Wushuang shook his head. Su Yuhan held her forehead. Yi Chun, I'm a little tired. I want to rest. Go. Yi Chun nodded. Su Yue carried Su Yuhan back to the room immediately. He glanced at Yi Wushuang after they left. Are they from the Martial Alliance? I think so, Yi Wushuang said. What a Martial Alliance. Yi Chun laughed out of anger. It seems like I've overestimated them. I can't believe they attacked my wife and son. At that moment, Lin Tai walked in quickly from outside. He looked panicked. My lord, something happened in Tianan. The people from the Martial Alliance took your parents away. His voice fell. Boom! A ferocious aura exuded from Yi Chen's body. He said coldly while looking straight at Lin Tai. When did this happen? Just half an hour ago. Lin Tai knelt onto the ground with a thud due to his aura. He said with sweat all over his head, The people that I arranged to protect my parents have been killed. The Martial Alliance went to your house directly and took your parents away. They even blew up the house. I also just received a call from Old Master Gu. It was Martial Alliance's Hall Master Lu Tong who brought people to kidnap the two elders. Old Master Gu came out to stop them, but he was stunned by the Martial Dao Masters on the other side. The house fell into silence for a few seconds after he was done speaking. Yi Chen lifted his head suddenly as killing intent that was like a tsunami flashed through his eyes. Martial Alliance, you guys are seeking death. As the saying went, one should not harm one's family. He would not have been so furious if the Martial Alliance had only targeted Yi Chun. However, his parents, Yuhan, and the rest were his reverse scale. A dragon had a reverse scale, and one would definitely die if one touched it. My lord, what do we do now? Lin Tai asked anxiously. The Martial Alliance had the two elders in their hands, which meant that they had Yi Chen's life in their hands. They could even request anything. That included getting Yi Chun to destroy his cultivation base or commit suicide. I'll go kill them. Yi Wushuang turned around to leave after saying that. Wait. Yi Chun stopped him, and a cold smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. Do they think that I won't be able to find my parents just because they've captured them? They're too naive. Just when Lin Tai was going to speak, he saw Yi Chun leaping out of the house directly. He leaped toward the building across as soon as he stepped out. Yi Chun stood still and looked down on everyone like a god. His eyes were cold as he squeezed a drop of blood from the tip of his finger. The blood floated in the air with a golden glow. Burn my true blood and refine my divine consciousness. Spirit refinement method, 10,000 miles tracking. Yi Chun spat out a few words softly and subsequently closed his eyes. The spirit refinement method was a method that could strengthen one's divine consciousness to a range of up to 1,000 meters. One could perform the spirit refinement method under the stimulation of one's true blood, and one's divine consciousness could cover up to 10,000 miles. However, it could only sense people who were related to him by blood. That was the reason why he could not use this method to look for Su Yuhan back then. Moreover, there would be certain side effects after using this method. However, it was nothing as long as he could find his parents. At that moment, a massive divine consciousness surged out of Yi Chun's mudball palace crazily. It spread out like a ripple, sweeping through the streets, the tall buildings, and the tall mountains. As long as someone with a similar bloodline to him appeared within the range of his divine consciousness, he would be able to sense it. His parents' bloodline was the closest to his. As his divine consciousness spread out in a frenzy, countless powerhouses in China were the first to sense it. At that moment, countless powerhouses looked at the sky with shock in their eyes. Is that spiritual power? Could it be the legendary Martial Dao Venerable? Rumor had it that after stepping into Martial Dao Venerable, one could release their consciousness and form their own territory. When Yi Chun's divine consciousness covered a radius of 3,000 miles, two extremely rich and familiar bloodline auras appeared in his divine consciousness. Chapter 255. The Genius Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 255. The Whereabouts of Yi Chun's Parents. Third update. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Tip. Please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading straight face. Bookmark recommended book. Chapter 255. The Whereabouts of Yi Chun's Parents. Part 3 at the same time. In a building 3,000 kilometers away from Beijing. It was not an ordinary building, but the Martial Alliance's branch in Tiannan. It was mainly there to guard and accept ancient martial artists. Meanwhile, the person guarding the branch was Elder Wu, who was with Lu Tong. He was a martial Dao master. In the building's basement at the moment, Yi Hai and Wu Lan were lying on the ground. As they were tied up tightly, they could not move at all. They said nothing when they woke up. All they did was glare coldly at Lu Tong, who was standing before them. Although they had no idea why the Martial Alliance captured them, they could roughly guess that the Martial Alliance wanted to use them to threaten Yi Chun. Since that was the case, it was useless to scold them. Lu Tong, who was standing before them, chuckled. Don't look at me like that. It's your fault for having such a good son. Tui. Wu Lan spat hard on his face. Lu Tong easily dodged the attack. He wasn't angry at all. Instead, a burly man behind him flew into a rage and slapped towards Wu Lan. No need. Lu Tong stopped him immediately. The hunk scoffed and said, "Hall Master Lu, these two people don't know what's good for them. How dare they spit at you? I think we should chop off one of their arms each." As soon as he said that, Yi Hai and Wu Lan's expressions changed at the same time. "What's the rush?" Lu Tong said while smiling, chopping off their arms aside. "What's the use even if you kill them now? Mad Southern Yi isn't here yet." He paused as he spoke to this point. Tip. Please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. A cruel smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. Why don't we torture his parents slowly when Mad Southern Yi bows down to us? That'll be interesting. That's right. Hall Master Lu, you're so thoughtful. The hunk flattered Lu Tong immediately. Keep an eye on them. I'm going to have a meal. When the plane from the headquarters arrives, I'll bring them back to the headquarters. Lu Tong walked out after saying that. Yin Jing. After sensing his parents' exact address and safety, Yichen opened his eyes slowly. A ferocious gleam flashed through his eyes. Are they in Wenzhou, Zhujiang? He leaped from the building and landed in the Imperial Wind Pavilion within the span of a few breaths. He ordered Lin Tai, "Book me 2 tickets to Wenzhou and Zhujiang immediately." Lin Tai nodded respectfully and took out his phone to book the tickets immediately. Yichen then looked at Yi Wushuang next to him and smiled calmly. "Do you dare to go to the Martial Alliance with me and turn the world upside down?" Yi Wushuang said nothing. However, the sword on his back released a sword hum. As lightning flashed, there were crackling sounds of electricity. Lin Tai, transfer all 800 people from the Star Pavilion to the Imperial Wind Pavilion after we leave. Kill anyone who dares to come in, even if their blood flows like a river. Yichen reminded. Lin Tai hesitated to speak. "My lord, I'm afraid we won't be their match if a martial Dao master attacks the madam." "Don't worry about it." Yichen shook his head lightly. "Just deal with the rest. As for powerhouses like masters, someone will deal with them." His divine consciousness exploded from his mudball palace as he spoke to this point. It covered the entire Imperial Wind Pavilion directly. The Patriarch of Hell was lying on the fake mountain at the moment, peeping at the 2 male monkeys and female monkeys being intimate. He looked envious. "Patriarch, there's something I want to tell you." The Patriarch of Hell looked away reluctantly after hearing Yi Chen's voice transmission. He walked over while wagging his tail and grinned. "Master, your most loyal servant, Cutie, is here." Lin Tai's expression changed as soon as he heard that. Lin Tai, who was standing aside, had a drastic change of expression as if he had seen a ghost. Deacon dogs talk. He had treated the Patriarch as an ordinary dog earlier. However, he was almost scared to death when the dog suddenly spoke human language. "Your whole family is a dog." The Patriarch glanced at him in disdain. "Shaolin, be nice to me. I'll eat you if you piss me off." Lin Tai nodded immediately while breaking out in cold sweat. On the other hand, Yi Wushuang was not surprised at all. After all, he had sensed the Patriarch's abnormality earlier. Yichen had explained it to him later on. "All right," Yichen interrupted him and said while looking at the Patriarch coldly, "If any martial Dao masters come after I leave, kill them all you want. At the same time, you can activate the Great 9 Heavens Dragon Transformation Formation of the Imperial Wind Pavilion." "Master, I'm not sure that Buttface is a match for them." The Patriarch pretended to be in a dilemma, but his eyes started to roll. "Old thing, I've been nice to you, haven't I?" Yichen scoffed. "Don't think that I don't know that you've been to the club many times behind my back. Your cultivation base has reached Mastery Stage Spirit Assembly since a long time ago. This bastard was as cunning as a ghost. No wonder he was a tribulation stage old monster when he was alive. He was lustful and greedy. He would do anything as long as there were benefits." Reminder, please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. The Patriarch of Hell smiled awkwardly and changed his words immediately. "No problem. I'll definitely protect them. But master, I heard that there's a woman called Ma something Rong who's pretty slutty lately. I like to experience it myself when I get back. I like to see if she can spray my back." Lin Tai could not stop coughing upon hearing that. Is he a perverted dog? He seems like he's not picky at all. I can't believe he likes that kind of woman. Yichen scoffed and glanced at Wushuang. The duo walked out of the Imperial Wind Pavilion together. Lin Tai drove the car to the entrance. Just when they were going to get into the car, a cough came from far away. An old monk in a kasaya with a staff in his hand walked over. He was dressed like a llama, and he happened to block the car's way. The old monk's hair and beard were all white. He was old and looked like he had 1 foot in the grave. He held an alms bowl in his hand and coughed as he walked. He walked very slowly, as if every step he took was strenuous. Yi Wushuang's expression turned cold as the great thunder sword that he carried on his back began shaking. The old monk glanced at Yi Chun with his blurry eyes as he walked closer. Subsequently, he passed the alms bowl over with a shaking hand and said while shaking, "Sir, can I ask for some favors?" Lin Tai walked over and tossed a 100 yuan note into the old monk's bowl. He said coldly, "Take it and get out of my way." The old monk did not even look at the 100 yuan note. He passed the alms bowl in his hand to Yi Chun. Not enough. Lin Tai was pissed. It was his first time encountering such a person. He thought about it and counted 500 yuan again before tossing it into the alms bowl. However, the old monk remained still. "Old man, I'm giving you face, aren't I?" Lin Tai was enraged and wanted to chase him away by instinct. Yi Chun stopped him and looked at the old monk coldly. His voice was extremely cold. "I wonder what kind of favors are you asking for?" Cough, cough, cough. The old monk coughed hard a few times. He seemed to be exhausted. He looked at Yi Chun and said in his deep voice, "I'd like to ask for your head. I wonder if you're willing to do that. P.S. There are 2 more chapters to the 3rd chapter. I'm stuck. I'm writing it now. I won't miss any updates." Chapter 256. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 256. Who else wants to kill me? Come out and take a look. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Add a bookmark. Recommend book. Chapter 256. Who else wants to kill me? Come out and take a look. I'd like to melt your head. I wonder if you're willing to do that. The atmosphere changed as soon as the old monk was done speaking. A strong wind blew from the ground all of a sudden, sweeping the fallen leaves into the air. Countless auras were directed at Yi Chun and the rest. "Old man, I noticed that something was wrong with you." Lin Tai was enraged. He threw a punch at the old monk first. The wind whistled, and the shadow of the punch was unpredictable like a cannonball. However, the old monk did not even look at it. All he did was take a step forward. An aura that was like a tsunami exploded from his body. "Tui!" Lin Tai staggered a few steps back from the impact of the aura. He could not help but spit a mouthful of blood out. He looked at the old monk in horror again. Yi Chun had taught him the Azura heaven-suppressing kill and some medicinal pills for cultivation. He had broken through to beginner-stage spirit assembly recently. One could say that he would not be at a disadvantage even if he were to fight an illuminating pulse expert. However, the old monk's aura alone made him retreat. His organs were burning as if they were being burned. His vital energy and blood were rumbling. He reminded immediately as he thought to this point, "Watch out, my lord. This old man's ability is rather terrifying." Yi Chun shook his head lightly and looked at the old monk. "Who sent you here to kill me? The Martial Alliance?" "It's not the Martial Alliance. I'm here for myself." The old monk shook his head. "Wushuang, kill him." "Oh," Yi Chun responded. He then turned around and walked into the car. His expression was extremely cold, as if he was talking about something very normal. However, his divine consciousness sensed that there were countless ancient martial artists hiding around. Moreover, each of them had a powerful ability. Yi Wushuang, who was motionless earlier, released a sword intent. A sword intent exploded from Yi Wushuang, who had been motionless earlier. Invisible sword chi surrounded him, forming a terrifying sword chi storm with him as the center. Sword whistles filled the air. Note: please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading: this is the unparalleled sword. His talent is indeed astonishing. Not bad. To be able to comprehend sword intent at such a young age, and to be able to split sword chi, it seems like the rumors are true. I wonder how Rinpoche of Mean Temple will deal with it. Rinpoche made a name for himself 50 years ago. He's now at the peak of the inborn realm and is the closest to becoming a martial arts supreme. Even Yang Junlin, who's ranked second on the heaven list, can't take 3 moves from him. He's also good at the tantric hard chi skill. The unparalleled sword chi can't break through his defense. Almost at the same time, the powerhouses hiding in various corners started discussing. They had also come for the breakthrough pill after learning about the Martial Alliance's kill order on Mad Southern Yi. However, due to Mad Southern Ye's reputation, everyone chose to remain silent at the same time. Only the old monk could not help but stand up first. Now that the old and the new were fighting, they couldn't help but secretly look forward to it. Amateus. The old monk pressed his palms together with a serious expression on his face. Subsequently, the kasaya he was wearing shook and opened like an umbrella. Energy surrounded him like a wave. Most importantly, a golden energy silhouette was formed next to him. It covered him like a bronze bell. "If you can break my golden bell canopy, I will retreat," the old monk said, as if he was compassionate. "You don't have to leave. Leave your life here." Yi Wuxuang looked cold. As soon as he said that, the hidden powerhouses sneered. They did not think much of it. The Tibetan esoteric sect was best at the lion's roar and the golden bell shield. Every lama would use the esoteric sect's secret body-refining medicine to strengthen their bodies when they cultivated. Although Yi Wuxuang was powerful, he could fight Rinpoche to a draw at most. Killing him? That was pure wishful thinking. Even the old monk shook his head lightly, as if he did not agree with what Yi Wuxuang said. In the next second, a bolt of lightning lit up. A bolt of lightning lit up. It was a sword gleam, but the gleam was like lightning. The sword gleam was getting brighter and brighter. It was like a bolt of lightning that was rising, illuminating the day. The afterglow that the sword gleam reflected was extremely glaring. At that moment, everyone closed their eyes by instinct. As the sound of flesh being cut was heard, everyone opened their eyes immediately. There was a head on the ground, as well as a headless body in a kasaya. The body was still holding the alms bowl, not moving at all. The entire place fell into dead silence. The old abbot of the Mean Temple, Rinpoche, who was the closest to a martial Tao venerable and was an expert in the golden bell shield, was dead. One sword, just one sword. There was no extra movement. Not only did the sword break Rinpoche's golden bell shield, but it even severed his head. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat as chills ran down their spines. Clang! The long sword was sheathed. Yi Wuxuang walked straight into the car. There was a crimson bloodstain on his flawless white clothes. The young man said calmly, "Brother, he's dead." Yichen nodded lightly. Subsequently, a shocking killing intent exploded from his body. The killing intent spread out, sending chills down the spines of countless powerhouses who were hiding in the dark, who were waiting for the opportunity to attack. Reminder: please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading, BR/an extremely indifferent voice resounded. "Who else wants to kill me? Come out and let me see you." The voice echoed within thousands of meters. It was extremely arrogant, overbearing, and insufferably arrogant. Dead silence filled the air. Nobody spoke, and nobody dared to speak. "Dry." Yichen glanced at Lin Tai. Lin Tai snapped back to his senses and got into the driver's seat immediately. He started the car and drove off the street slowly. Nobody dared to attack again, even though they were once on the heaven leaderboard. Even though they had withdrawn from the heaven leaderboard and cultivated for decades, people regarded them as old monsters. But now, all of them chose to stay silent. An old Taoist wearing a tattered Taoist robe leaped onto the ground after watching the car disappear before his eyes. He looked at the old monk's corpse and then looked in the direction where the car had disappeared. His heart was filled with fear. Monsters. 2 monsters. The Martial Alliance has really messed with the heavens this time. After Yi Chun and Yi Wuxuang boarded the plane, they sat by the window directly. At that moment, the plane was filled with many people. As Wuxuang sat down, he attracted countless stunned gazes. Regardless of gender, everyone in the entire cabin turned their heads to look at him. Clearly, they were stunned by Wuxuang's handsome face. However, Yi Wuxuang did not seem to feel that at all. He stood still, and his expression was cold. He exuded an aura that pushed people away from him. Although many people were stunned by him, they dared not come up to greet him. Yichen glanced at him with a strange expression. He could not help but say while smiling, "I feel pressured sitting with you." He was like a green leaf that served as a foil to Wuxuang's red flower. There was actually a hint of sourness in his heart. Yi Wuxuang smiled when he heard that. At that moment, the announcement that the plane was about to take off came from the PA system. A lady in beige martial arts attire walked over. She looked at Yi Chun in a condescending manner and said, "I'll buy your seat for 500 yuan. P.S. Chapter 4. There's one more chapter. Chapter 257. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 257. Xiao Yueli's Pride. Urban Romance. Jikikms. At a bookmark, recommend this book. Chapter 257. Xiao Yueli's pride. Chan was slightly stunned when he heard what the lady said. Seeing that he did not speak, the woman snorted coldly. A hint of disdain flashed in her eyes. 1,000 yuan. Is that enough to buy your seat? Yichen took a good look at her and was shocked to find out that she was an ancient martial artist on internal energy. Coupled with her beauty and luxurious clothes, it was no wonder that she was so arrogant. Scram! Before waiting for Yi Chun, Yi Wushuang glanced at her coldly. You? The lady did not expect Yi Wushuang to say that. She was furious and stammered. So what if you're handsome? After saying this, she returned to her seat angrily. Women would always judge by their appearance. There were no exceptions, not even Xiao Yueli. She was proud and arrogant, so she did not care about men at all. However, it was her first time seeing someone as handsome as Yi Wushuang. She wanted to switch seats with Yi Chun as she was tempted. In the end, Yi Wushuang told him to scram. Oof. She scoffed and turned her head around, not allowing herself to look at Yi Wushuang. She mumbled, "Men are all pigs. Aren't they handsome? You can't even take one of my punches." Yichen shook his head lightly. I've finally seen it. It seems like being handsome is really something nowadays. The lady's attitude toward him earlier was disdain. However, she dared not say anything after Yi Wushuang rolled away. She sat back obediently. Didn't that prove everything? Thinking of this, he simply closed his eyes and rested. Over 2 hours later, the plane finally landed at Wenzhou Longwan Airport in Zhejiang. Just when Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang walked out of the terminal, Xiao Yueli caught up to them from behind. She said angrily to Yi Wushuang, "I'll remember you, pretty boy." Yi Wushuang's eyes turned cold. Just when he was going to draw his sword, Xiao Yueli walked to the side of the road and got into a Porsche. Forget it. Who asked you to be so handsome? Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Yi Chun took out the great thunder sword from his storage ring and passed it to him. He patted his shoulder and led him to the roadside to hail a car. After getting in, the driver turned his head and asked, "Where are we going?" "Just drive straight ahead. I'll tell you when we turn," Yi Chun said coldly. He could only sense his parents' location, but he had never been to Wenzhou, so he didn't know what this place was called. The driver glanced at Yi Wushuang and could not help but ask, "Bro, where are you filming? You look pretty cool." Seeing that Yi Wushuang was carrying a sword on his back and was dressed in a white ancient costume, he thought that Yi Wushuang was an actor. That was the reason why Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang did not cause any commotion along the way. The only problem was that Yi Wushuang's great thunder sword could not pass the security check easily. Therefore, Yi Chun put the sword away in his storage ring before boarding the plane. Yi Chun knew that the driver had misunderstood, but he went with the flow and said, "It's at the Beijing Hungyan Film City." The driver's expression was as if he had expected it. At the Martial Alliance building in the southeast, it was crowded at the moment. Most of them were ancient martial artists, and they were testing their abilities in the training room of the building. The so-called training room was actually similar to an equipment room. There were spring rods, dynamometers, barbells, and the like. The main function was to test an ancient martial artist's comprehensive ability through strength and stamina. Xiao Yueli was in there at the moment. She was spacing out as she recalled the young man in white that she had encountered on the plane. Isn't he just handsome? What's so amazing about that? No matter how handsome he is, he's still weak. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Next, Xiao Yueli. At that moment, the Martial Alliance staff's numb voice came. Xiao Yueli snapped back to her senses. She took a few steps forward and bowed to the old man before her respectfully. "Greetings, Deacon Chun." The old man before her was the Martial Alliance's deacon. He was also a beginner-stage illuminating pulse expert. Even her father had to treat him with respect. Deacon Chun gave a neutral response and said expressionlessly, "Let's begin the test. If you're proven to have an internal energy cultivation base, you can join my Martial Alliance." "Oh sure." Xiao Yueli, who was extremely arrogant earlier, was a little nervous hearing that. She walked to the side and picked up a spring rod. She twisted it gently, and the spring rod was twisted into a dough twist. The rest were shocked to see that. Clearly, They did not expect a lady to have such great strength. Deacon Chin nodded lightly. Give her a 30-centimeter steel pipe. Immediately, a staff member handed a steel pipe to Chiu Yueli. Chiu Yueli took a deep breath and bent it hard. Her face was flushed, and the steel pipe was immediately bent to 90 degrees. However, no matter how hard Chiu Yueli tried, she couldn't bend it at all. Pass, Deacon Chun said expressionlessly. That alone made the rest of the people who came to take the test look at Chiu Yueli enviously. Clearly, the lady had passed the Martial Alliance's test and could join the alliance. It was countless people's dream to join the Martial Alliance. Ms. Chiu, this is the Martial Alliance uniform. A staff passed her a set of black clothes. Chiu Yueli clenched her fists in excitement. She could not help but think of Yi Wushuang again. And be a reminder, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading, SP, Gigolo. Now that I've joined the Martial Alliance, it means that you and I are in different worlds. You're just a mortal after all. A loud thud came from outside all of a sudden just when she was thinking about that. Chiu Yueli opened her eyes to look by instinct. She was dumbstruck as her beautiful eyes were wide open. Outside the glass door, a skinny silhouette walked over slowly while carrying a car with one arm. Meanwhile, there was a young man in white following next to him. It's them. Chiu Yueli looked shocked as her little mouth turned into an O shape. Never had she thought that the duo she had met on the plane would come to the Martial Alliance branch. Moreover, Yi Chun, whom she had looked down on earlier, was carrying a car with one arm. Are they ancient martial artists too? Before she could react, she saw Yi Chun toss the car in his hand as he walked closer. It smashed hard on the glass door. The car went on a rampage and crashed into the Martial Alliance directly from the intense energy wave. Who are you? How dare you mess around in the Martial Alliance? At that moment, two silhouettes with extremely powerful auras leaped out of the Martial Alliance and shouted, "It's clan leader Zhao and the rest." Officer Chun, who was earlier, screamed and said with a scoff, "How dare those two guys cause trouble here? They're dead meat now. One must know that clan leader Zhao and the rest are illuminating pulse experts." Chiu Yueli was shocked to hear that. She wanted to tell Yi Chun and Yi Wushuang to run by instinct. However, just when she opened her mouth, Yi Chun smashed clan leader Zhao and the rest into a bloody mist. At that moment, the place fell into dead silence. The powerful Hall Master Zhao was killed by a single slap from the other party. Chiu Yueli was dumbstruck. Yi Chun glanced at the people before him coldly and lifted his eyes to speak to Yi Wushuang next to him. Kill everyone who's wearing the Martial Alliance uniform. He rushed to the building's basement directly after saying that because he sensed that his parents were down there. Moreover, they seemed to be taking them away. P.S. Chapter 5. Sorry for making everyone wait. Chapter 258. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 258. Death I am born from killing. Those who go against me must die. Urban Romance. Gkikums. At a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 258. Death I am born from killing. Those who go against me must die. Kill everyone who's wearing the Martial Alliance uniform. As soon as Yi Chun left, Yi Wushuang was the only one left. Kill him. Deacon Chun, who was earlier, roared and charged at Yi Wushuang with his palm. A cold grin appeared on his face. To him, Yi Wushuang was merely a 17 or 18-year-old young man. How could he be his match? Chiu Yueli snapped back to her senses and stomped her feet in panic. Her little face was flushing. Pretty boy, run. Run now. However, Yi Wushuang remained where he was. Just when Chiu Yueli thought he was dead, a glaring sword gleam streaked across the sky. Subsequently, Deacon Chun, who was approaching Yi Wushuang, froze all of a sudden. He could not move at all. A bloody line split open on his forehead. Bang! Deacon Chin's body exploded into half directly. Blood mixed with his organs splashed all over the ground. Until he died, he had no idea how the young man before him had attacked. The scene that came out of nowhere shocked everyone in the lounge. Chiu Yueli stared blankly at the young man in white before her as her chest heaved up and down. Why is this pretty boy so powerful? Deacon Chun was an illuminating pulse expert. He was 100 times more powerful than her, but he was killed before he could even touch the corner of the pretty boy's shirt. Kill! Kill him! Countless Martial Alliance experts rushed out from all corners of the lounge. They leaped at Yi Wushuang in a flash. The powerful energy wave threw the people behind them out. Yi Wushuang stood coldly with a cold expression. Sword intent surged on his body as he expressionlessly watched the over 10 people who were charging at him. Each of them had at least an internal energy cultivation base. Bang! A terrifying sword intent came out of Yi Wushuang's body all of a sudden. Lightning flashed through the great thunder sword behind him, and a sword chi exploded from the sword hilt. It turned into a rain of swords that swept everywhere. The sword chi was like rain, and the sword gleam was like thunder. With him as the center, it rained swords, and the dozen people who were charging at him exploded into blood mist at the same time. If there were any martial Dao grandmasters present, they would realize that these people were torn apart by the sword chi. Before the sword was unsheathed, the person was already dead. Chiu Yueli was in a daze. Her face was pale. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Not only was this gigolo handsome, his strength was also so terrifying. To think that she had thought that he was good-looking but useless, unable to withstand a punch from her. In the basement of the Martial Alliance building, a hunk rushed down in a panic and looked at Lu Tong, who was sitting in front of him. L-Clan leader Lu, bad news. El-Mad Southern Yi is here. What? Lu Tong's scalp went numb, his face filled with disbelief. How did he know that we captured his parents and brought them here? No, let's move now. Elder Wu, let's go. The expression on his face was replaced by fear. He knew how powerful Yi Chun was. He would definitely die if Yi Chun caught him. A skinny old man in a gray robe looked grim. He knew very well that he was no match for Mad Southern Yi, even though he was a martial Dao master. What about them? The hunk stretched his arm and pointed at Yi Hai and Wu Lan, who were standing aside. Kill them. Killing intent flashed through Lu Tong's face as he grinned in a creepy manner. Kill them. Even if Mad Southern Yi comes, he'll only see 2 dead bodies. I want him to live in regret and self-blame for the rest of his life. Yi Hai and Wu Lan's expressions changed as soon as he said that. Yi Hai and Wu Lan's expressions changed one after another. The hunk grinned cruelly. He moved and slapped Yi Hai and Wu Lan with immense strength. At that moment, a loud thud came. Following a loud bang, the entire basement shook violently. Everyone felt their feet stumble and hurriedly looked up in shock. Even the burly man was no exception. They saw a gigantic crack appear on the ceiling above their heads. An intense killing intent descended. Oh no, he's here. Lu Tong's expression changed drastically. He ordered immediately, quick, capture his parents. Otherwise, we'll all die. The hunk snapped back to his senses and turned his fist into a claw. He grabbed Yi Hai and his wife directly. However, at that moment, his right hand that he extended ignited all of a sudden. The flame did not go out. Oh! The hunk shrieked in devastation. The flame covered his entire body and burned him into ashes within the blink of an eye. Many people looked at this scene in horror. Nobody dared to touch Yi Hai and his wife anymore. Even Wu Chonglao, the martial Dao master present, was no exception. He felt a chill rush into his heart. He abandoned everyone without thinking and leaped toward the basement's exit. Run. It was more important to run. Elder Wu, save me. Lu Tong could not stop screaming. However, Elder Wu did not seem to hear him. He moved and turned into an afterimage. He leaped to the stairs within the blink of an eye. Just when he thought he had escaped, he suddenly realized that the corridor in front of him was ablaze. The fire covered the sky and the earth, completely blocking his way. The sea of fire spread, and the ground shook. Yi Chun leaped out of the crack on the ceiling slowly. His eyes were pitch black, and he looked like the god of death had arrived. His extremely cold voice shook the entire basement. I was born in a massacre, and I'll die in death. When I return to the world, those who go against me will die. A monstrous fire ignited on his body, covering his entire body. However, Yi Chun placed his arms behind his back with a cold expression on his face. It was real fire. It was Yi Chen's rage. It was Yi Chen's rage. Note: please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading. This was the wrath of the heavenly emperor. His parents, wife, and daughter were his reverse scale. He would die if he touched them. Xiaochun, Yihai, and Wulan watched that blankly. Never had they thought that their son would really come to save them. Not only that, but his entrance was so shocking. Yichen lifted his head to look at them and smiled lightly. His smile was apologetic. "Dad, Mom, please close your eyes. It's a little bloody. I don't want to scare you guys." Yihai and Wulan closed their eyes immediately. "Yi, mad Southern Yi." Lu Tong screamed hysterically when he saw Yi Chen's face clearly. He was shaking. Yi Chen looked at him expressionlessly. "You're great." That stare scared Lu Tong out of his wits. He said immediately, "Elder Wu, let's attack him together. Kill him. Otherwise, we'll all die." He knew that Yi Chun was powerful, and he also knew that there was no room for negotiation when they kidnapped his parents. Since that was the case, he could only fight with his life on the line. "Kill!" Elder Wu had a ferocious expression on his face as he shouted. Energy surged around him, and his arms were covered in an extremely powerful energy. He charged at Yi Chun directly like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. "How dare you touch my family? All must die." A shocking roar came out of Yi Chen's mouth. He stretched his arm out, and Elder Wu was lifted into the air by his neck. "How are you so powerful?" Elder Wu was scared out of his wits. He was a martial Dao master, but he was captured by Yi Chun just like that. He threw a punch at Yi Chen's face by instinct. "Gotcha!" Elder Wu's right arm was ripped off by Yi Chun as soon as the sound of his joints cracking was heard. Blood was spurting out of his severed arm. "Oh!" Elder Wu shrieked in devastation. "Gotcha!" His left arm was ripped off by Yi Chun again. "Kill me." Elder Wu's face was twisted into a mess. What kind of person have I offended? P.S. Chapter 1 at 9 p.m. There are 4 more chapters to go. Please vote for me. Chapter 259. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 259. One Man and One Sword. Second update. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 259. One Man and One Sword. 2 p.m. Does it hurt? Yi Chun smirked coldly when he heard Elder Wu scream. "You should have known this day would come from a moment you touch my family." Yi Chun performed 2 wind blades after saying that. He severed both of his legs directly and tossed him onto the ground. Yi Chun stepped on his head. Elder Wu's lower body twitched violently a few times before he breathed his last. Such a bloody and cruel scene struck fear into the hearts of everyone present. Lu Tong's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. "Mad? Madman, you're a madman." The powerful Elder Wu did not have the slightest ability to resist. He was like a dog being slaughtered. At this moment, he was extremely regretful. Yi Chun lifted his head to look at them and grinned, revealing his white teeth. However, his smile was extremely creepy. "Don't worry, it'll be your turn soon." Plop! Lu Tong's legs went limp, and he knelt hard before Yi Chun. He kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. "Spare me, mad Southern Yi. I'm begging you. Spare my worthless life. I won't dare to do it again. I'm willing to be your dog." Seeing him like this, the others also knelt down and kowtowed loudly, trembling as they said, "Spare us." They were truly scared out of their wits by Yi Chun. How is this a human? He's clearly a demon. Yi Chun walked toward Lu Tong one step after another. Each step he took seemed to be stepping on their hearts. "Lu Tong, you're not bad. You captured my parents and blew up my house. Tell me, how do you want to die?" "I won't dare to do it again. The Martial Alliance ordered me to do all of this." Lu Tong was secretly terrified. Subsequently, a ferocious gleam flashed through his eyes as he charged at Yi Chun. A sharp dagger appeared in his hand out of nowhere. The dagger went straight for Yi Chun's heart. "Die!" A ferocious expression appeared on his face. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. forward slash to him. No matter how powerful Yi Chun was at such a close distance, his sneak attack would definitely pierce through Yi Chen's heart. However, in the next moment, his expression froze. When the dagger stabbed into Yi Chen's chest, it did not pierce through Yi Chen's heart as expected. Instead, a ding was heard. Yi Chen felt his arm go numb, and the dagger was bent. A misunderstanding. Lu Tong's lips trembled. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly felt a large hand pressing down on his head. Then, he felt as though his head was about to explode. The pain was unbearable. Ah! He wanted to struggle, but he was held down tightly. After Yi Chun read the memories in his head with the soul-searching tactic, he smashed his head with his palm. He looked at the over 20 people kneeling before him again. He reached out and grabbed the dagger on the ground. As soon as the dagger fell into his hand, it shattered into countless pieces of metal. Die! Yi Chun lifted his arm and waved. The metal pieces shot at the 20-odd people. A white gleam flashed, and the killing intent was intense. The area between their brows was pierced by the metal pieces, and their begging stopped abruptly. At that moment, apart from Yi Chen's parents, everyone in the entire basement was dead. Nobody was left alive. Yi Chen glanced at his parents, who were far away. Seeing that both of them still had their eyes closed, they seemed to be suffering from the pain. He bit the tip of his finger and drew a soul-capturing formation on his right palm. He chanted, "Wandering souls, where can you stay? The 3 souls have arrived, and the 7 spirits have arrived." Everything happened almost instantly. Black energy flashed through the bodies of the 20-odd people who were killed on the ground. Ferocious faces were reflected, as if there were countless ghosts roaring and growling. The black energy shot into the sky, and the resentment lingered. "Collect." Yi Chun faced the spirits with his palm. As soon as he said that, the spirits turned into black energy and flew into the soul-capturing formation on his palm. It was the soul-capturing method of the 5 Ghosts sect in the cultivation world. It could capture spirits into a formation, preventing them from reincarnating. Yi Chen only walked Yi Hai and his wife after everything was done. He knelt hard onto the ground. "Dad, Mom, I'm here. I'm sorry for scaring you guys." It was Yi Chen's responsibility that his parents were captured by the people from the Martial Alliance. Fortunately, he arrived in time, and Lu Tong and the rest did not do anything to his parents. Yi Hai and Wu Lan only opened their eyes then. Fear flashed through their faces when they saw the dead bodies on the ground. "Xiaochen, are they dead?" Yi Hai asked after gulping. "That's right." Yi Chen nodded slowly. "How dare they offend Mom and Dad? They deserve to die," Wu Lan said while looking pale. "Why you've killed so many people? Will you be imprisoned?" "Don't worry. I know what to do. Let's go. I'll bring you guys to Beijing to see Yuhan." Yi Chen smiled and got up to help his parents up. He tossed the fireball tactic, and a sea of fire appeared behind him. Meanwhile, there were up to 100 dead bodies lying on the ground in the Martial Alliance lobby at the moment. If one were to look closer, one would notice that all of the dead bodies wore black martial attire with a Martial Alliance logo on their chests. All of them were from the Martial Alliance. None of them survived. The 30-odd people who survived looked blankly at the young man in white who stood before them with a sword in his hand. They were secretly shocked. Reminder: please rest your eyes after reading for a long time. Recommended reading: BR/A man and a sword had destroyed the entire Martial Alliance branch. Even Xiao Yueli was no exception. She looked at the Martial Alliance uniform in her hand, and her hand shook. She tossed it onto the ground immediately. Her face was pale, but she was secretly relieved. Fortunately, she did not put on the Martial Alliance uniform as soon as she got it. Otherwise, there would be another dead body on the ground. Yi Wushuang saw everything that she did. A conflicted gleam flashed deep in his cold eyes. Should I kill her or not? Big Brother said that anyone who wears the Martial Alliance uniform must die. Although she didn't wear it, she's still from the Martial Alliance. She hesitated for a moment. Yi Wushuang walked to her slowly while holding his sword. There was a faint ruthlessness and killing intent growing under his seemingly calm face. Xiao Yueli fell onto the ground and said while stammering, "W, what are you trying to do? I am not from the Martial Alliance." At that moment, she had completely forgotten who had called Yi Wushuang a good-for-nothing gigolo earlier. A sword gleam swept over. Xiao Yueli closed her eyes in despair. A while later, she realized that she was alive and well. She could not help but open her eyes to see that the young man in white had walked out. Meanwhile, there were 3 people standing outside the Martial Alliance. One of them was the young man who had broken in while carrying the car with one hand. Phew, that was close. Xiao Yueli was relieved, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. She patted her chest by instinct, causing her breasts to undulate. Come out now if you don't want to die. Yichen glanced at the 30-odd people in the lobby. The people ran out one after another as soon as he said that. The almighty killer sword appeared in Yi Chen's hand. He took a step out and swung his sword at the entire Martial Alliance building. As everyone watched in shock, the Martial Alliance building that was 10 stories tall was slashed into ruins by the sword gleam. The Martial Alliance branch that dominated the southeast was gone just like that. Let's go. Yi Chen shook his head and left with his parents and Yi Wushuang. Xiao Yueli watched them leave in a daze. The shock within her lingered for a long time. Who exactly are they? Chapter 260. Evil Stay-at-Home Dad in the City. Chapter 260. Introduce someone to Wushuang. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Add a bookmark. Recommend this book. Chapter 260. Introduce someone to Wushuang. That afternoon, at the Imperial Wind Pavilion in Beijing, Su Yuhan knelt hard before Yi Hai and his wife. Tears filled her eyes. Dad, Mom, I haven't been filial to you all these years. I'm unfilial. During the 2 years that she was not around, Meng Meng was completely taken care of by the 2 old men. She had heard about the pressure from Yi Chan, so she felt guilty toward the 2 old men. Yuhan, quick, get up. Wu Lan hurriedly helped her up and held her hand tightly. Her eyes were red. Silly child, what are you talking about? You've suffered all these years. It's your parents, and I who should say sorry. Your mother is right. You've been locked up by the Su family for 2 years. Although we don't know anything, we can imagine that you've suffered more than us. At the side, Yi Hai hugged Meng Meng and sighed with a face full of self-blame. But fortunately, Xiaochen saved you. Now, our family is finally reunited. Yichen said while smiling, All right, it's a family reunion today. It's a happy occasion, so don't frown. As soon as he said that, Wu Lan and Yi Hai glared at him at the same time. Yi Hai scoffed and said with a straight face, How dare you talk, kid? Now that Yuhan is back, I'll beat you to death if you don't treat her well in the future. Yi Chun could only nod, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Dad, Mom, don't worry. I'll definitely treat Yuhan well. Also, when are you getting married? Have you chosen the date? Yi Hai's expression softened. Hearing this, Su Yuhan's pretty face blushed. Yi Chen shook his head, indicating that he had not decided yet. His plan was to settle the matters in Beijing and discuss the date after bringing Su Yuhan back to Tian'an. And NB, please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. SP. Wu Lan chimed in. Yuhan has been waiting for you for 5 years, but she hasn't been married yet. You must get married, and it must be a grand wedding. I'll discuss the date with your father later. The sooner, the better. The sooner the better? Yi Chun was stunned. Of course. Wu Lan glared at him in annoyance. Do you think you're still a young man in his 20s? The wedding should have been held 5 years ago, but you dragged it on for 5 years. Also, your dad has always wanted a grandchild. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Chun coughed. Dad, Mom, you guys talk. I'll cook for you guys. Su Yuhan could not take it anymore. She ran away after saying that while blushing. On the other hand, Meng Meng, who was in Yi Hai's embrace, blinked her eyes and said with a childish voice, Grandpa, I don't want a younger brother. Why? Yi Hai looked at her with a kind expression. Wu Lan and Yi Chun could not help but look at the little girl. The little fellow pouted. If I have a younger brother, I won't be a kid anymore. Daddy, Mommy, Grandpa, and Grandma will love my younger brother more. I'll fall out of favor. The people in the room were completely petrified. The little girl paused and said, Moreover, if I have a younger brother, I'll beat him up if he cries. He'll even snatch my snacks. What are you talking about, kid? Wu Lan rolled her eyes at her. She said, feeling amused and annoyed at the same time. If you have a younger brother, he'll protect you when he grows up. Nobody will bully you then. I see. The little girl snapped back to her senses and said with excitement written all over her face, Daddy, I want a younger brother. I want a lot of younger brothers. I'll bring my younger brothers to school in the future. If anyone bullies me in class, my younger brothers will beat him up. Yichen was shocked by what she said. He shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or to cry. Daddy and Mommy are already worried about you. You want a younger brother? Are you trying to tire Daddy and Mommy out? I don't care. I want a younger brother. The little girl lifted her chin proudly. Soon, Su Yuhan prepared a table full of delicious dishes. Yichen glanced at Yi Wushuang, who was rather reserved when they were eating. He said to his parents while smiling, Dad, Mom, let me introduce you guys. This is Yi Wushuang, my new godbrother. This kid is so handsome. He's even more handsome than a lady. In reality, Wulan had noticed Wushuang since the beginning. She could not help but compliment him after Yi Chun was done introducing him. Yi Wushuang's cheeks flushed when he heard that. Yi Hai picked up a glass of wine and toasted Yi Wushuang. He said while smiling, Since you're Xiaoqin's godbrother, we're a family from now on. Can you drink? Shall we? Yi Wushuang picked up a glass of wine and clinked it with him. He choked and coughed as soon as he took a sip, making everyone laugh. Wushuang is still a kid. Why are you asking him a drink? Wulan rolled her eyes at Yi Hai angrily. She then turned to look at Yi Wushuang and smiled. Wushuang, how old are you this year? Yi Wushuang was a little lost to hear that. He had no idea how old he was. He had been a sword spirit before. If he were to be counted as a sword spirit, he would be at least 1,000 years old. However, he was a human now. If he were to be counted according to the time he had been turned into a human until now, he had only been 100 days old at most. Reminder, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. Sensing his mother's dilemma, Yichen took over the conversation and said, Mom, Wushuang has just turned 18. He's an adult now. Not bad, not bad. The smile on Wulan's face was getting brighter. She turned into a gossipy auntie as she said while squinting, Do you have a boyfriend? Yi Wushuang was stunned. Su Yuwei, who was busy eating, froze with her chopsticks. She could not help but look at him. There was a hint of nervousness deep in her beautiful eyes. Wulan knew that he did not have a girlfriend when she saw his expression. She could not help but say, Xiaoqin has a cousin who's 2 to 3 years older than you. If you don't mind, I can introduce you guys later. Cousin? Yichen was stunned at first. Subsequently, he recalled who his mother was talking about. Who else could it be if not Yuan? Cough, cough, cough. Su Yuwei panicked when she heard that. She accidentally choked and coughed. She got up to get some water immediately. What are you thinking? Isn't woman only a few years older than Wushuang? She's clearly 7. Yi Hai glanced at Wu Lan helplessly. What do you know? Wu Lan chuckled. As the saying goes, a girl is 1 year older than a golden rooster. A girl is 2 years older than a golden can. A girl is 3 years older than a golden brick. A girl is 4 years older than a lucky girl. A girl is 6 years older than an old mother. If you're not happy, a girl is 7 years older than a girl. Yi Hai was speechless at that moment. Yichen shook his head lightly. Forget it. No matter how old a girl is, she's a good match to you. The patriarch of hell, who was sitting aside, had envy, jealousy, and hatred written all over his face when he saw that. A girl is 4 years older than a girl, and she's all smiles? I'm King mad now. You should introduce me to someone too. The patriarch wanted to say that, but he did not dare to. He was mainly afraid that he would scare Yi Chun if he said that. Yi Chun would skin him alive. At the same time, Su Yuwei, who was in the house, had a terrible expression on her face. A strong sense of danger rose within her. Su Yuhan, oh, Su Yuhan. Ning Ruolin is finally gone, and now you have another competitor. Chapter 261. The Genius Nanny in the City. Chapter 261 I, Mad Southern Yi. Am here to destroy the Martial Alliance today. Urban Romance. Jikikums. Add a bookmark. Chapter 261 I, Mad Southern Yi. Am here to destroy the Martial Alliance today. After dinner, Wulan dragged Su Yuhan to wash the dishes. The mother and daughter chatted and laughed in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Yihai was watching television on the couch while carrying Meng Meng. Yichin called Lin Tai over and passed him a list of refining materials. He ordered, "Go buy the materials on the list for me." Over an hour later, Lin Tai handed all of the materials to Yichin. Yichin glanced at his parents and walked to another room. He lifted his arm to set up a barrier and began refining magic tools. After an hour, a black banner appeared in his hand. The black banner exuded a faintly discernible gloomy aura. Yichin opened his right palm slowly. He slowly removed the soul-capturing formation on his palm. Bang! Over 20 black energy shot out of his palm and wandered around the house in a frenzy. Ferocity and resentment flashed on their faces. Furious roars, growls, and devastating shrieks came one after another. Gather! Yi Chun performed a series of hand seals with both hands. Subsequently, over 20 black energy floating in the air rushed into the black flag before him. Martial Alliance, this is the gift that I've prepared for you guys. A creepy smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. It was a 100-spirit flag that was commonly seen in the cultivation world. It could store spirits and use them to fight enemies. It was a rather vicious magic tool. Yichin would not have bothered to refine such an item with his character. However, what the Martial Alliance did had crossed his line. It would be too easy to just kill them. That's great too. The 100-spirit flag needs tens of souls to be complete. I'll use the Martial Alliance to refine a weapon for me. Yichin scoffed and walked out after putting the 100-spirit flag away. He saw Yu Shuang standing at the door quietly. "Brother, when are we leaving?" He knew very well that the Martial Alliance had triggered Yi Chun completely. It would not be as simple as destroying a Martial Alliance branch. If he wanted to destroy them, he would destroy the entire Martial Alliance. Let's go now. They've lived long enough. Please note, please pay attention to the rest of your eyes when reading for a long time. 00 recommended reading. Killing intent flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. He walked to the living room and told his parents that he had something to do. He then led Yi Wushuang out of the Imperial Wind Pavilion. When nobody noticed them, Yi Chan took out the almighty killer sword and lifted his eyes to look at Yi Wushuang. "Let's fly on the sword. Our destination is Mount Hua." Before this, he had retrieved the location of the Martial Alliance's headquarters from Lu Tong's mind using the soul-searching art. It was Mount Hua. As his voice fell, he performed a hand seal with one hand and leaped onto the almighty killer sword. He turned into a sword gleam and soared into the sky. Yi Wushuang followed closely behind him. The two sword gleams traversed 10,000 kilometers in the sky and charged toward Mount Hua while breaking through the wind. At the same time, within the jurisdiction of Qin City, the ancient capital of the 13 dynasties, Mount Hua was one of the 5 mountains. It was known as the Western Mountain and was also known as Taiwan Mountain. It was connected to the Qinling Mountains in the south and the Huangwei River in the north. Since ancient times, it had been known as the #1 dangerous mountain in the world. There were many natural and cultural sceneries. The scenery aside, the sword duel on Mount Hua that Old Master Jin wrote about took place there. People only knew that it was a famous mountain for sightseeing and sightseeing. However, they had no idea that the Martial Alliance's headquarters was in the dense forest of Mount Hua. The Martial Alliance had been passed down for hundreds of years. Many talents had been born during that period. Some of them knew geomancy formations, so they set up formations to hide the mountain. Ordinary people would not be able to find them at all. Even satellites and planes flying over their heads would not notice anything unusual. Meanwhile, the Martial Alliance's headquarters was dead silent at the moment. Over 10 silhouettes sat on the armchairs. Each of them exuded a faint, suffocating aura. Meanwhile, an old man in purple robes sat before them. The old man in purple robes looked majestic without being angry. He glanced at the people beneath him coldly, and none of them dared to look him in the eye. The reason being that the person was the deputy chief of the Martial Alliance, Million Killer. His position was only second to the chief, Sikong Ao. His ability was unpredictable and extremely terrifying. Anyone over the age of 60 would know what the words million slaughter represented. It represented blood-red human heads and living human lives. 40 years ago, China was in the midst of reform and opening up. It was under a lot of pressure everywhere, especially among the sections. Countless sects, such as Kongtong, were conservative and unwilling to contact overseas. Instead, they restrained the country with their power. As soon as Old Deng gave the order, the Martial Alliance's saber was aimed at those sects' heads directly. Million Killer was the one who led the team back then. Countless sects were suppressed by Million Killer, and the price was their heads rolling on the ground. That was how Million Killer got his name. Million Killer placed his hand on the table and said in his deep voice, "I just received news that my Martial Alliance's southeast branch was destroyed. Everyone from the Martial Alliance died." As soon as he said that, this immediately caused an uproar in the entire room. More than 10 people looked at each other, and they could see the shock and anger in each other's eyes. At that moment, the dead silence in the room cooled down. An old man with a long beard slammed the table and stood up. He shouted coldly, "Who's so bold? How dare they destroy my Martial Alliance branch?" Million Killer smirked coldly. Who else could it be? Of course, it's the number one on the Heaven leaderboard, Mad Southern Yi. Lu Tong, Elder Wu, and the rest who we sent to capture his parents are all dead. It's him? The old man with a long beard exclaimed. He looked like he was in disbelief. Didn't our Martial Alliance give the order to kill him? Moreover, I heard that the old abbot of Mean Temple, Rinpoche, priest Lu from Chao Feng Temple, and the rest went to kill Mad Southern Yi. Is he still alive? That old bald donkey is dead. Million Killer's expression was extremely grim. The old bald donkey is too stubborn. I can't believe he challenged Mad Southern Yi head-on. Mad Southern Yi didn't even fight. That unparalleled sword killed him with a swing of his sword. Priest Lu and the rest were afraid. Nobody dared to fight anymore. Note, please rest your eyes when reading for a long time. Recommended reading. As soon as he was done speaking, the entire room was dead silent. Everyone was shocked. They knew about Rinpoche of the Mean Temple and Taoist Lu of the Chao Feng Temple. Both of them had reached the threshold of the Martial Way Supreme Master. To put it bluntly, both of them were more powerful than everyone present. However, they were killed by the unparalleled sword with a swing of his sword. Priest Lu was so scared that he dared not fight anymore. An old man with a sharp nose inhaled sharply with a grim expression. Deputy Chief, what should our Martial Alliance do now? Million Killer shook his head lightly. Subsequently, a gleam shot out of his eyes. So what if it's destroyed? It's just a branch. We can rebuild it later. Mad Southern Yi said 3 days ago that he'll come to our Martial Alliance Mountain Gate today and destroy the entire Martial Alliance. If he comes, the old man with a long beard could not help but say. The old man with a sharp nose smirked coldly. Why are you worried about that? There's a formation outside our Martial Alliance Mountain Gate. How can Mad Southern Yi find it? Don't worry. Million Killer revealed a mocking smirk at the corner of his lips. Although Mad Southern Yi is powerful, he definitely won't dare to come to our Martial Alliance. Even if he comes, we'll definitely be able to kill him with our 8 Guardian Elders and our own alliance. Upon hearing that, the people nodded by instinct. Each of the 8 Guardian Elders had an ability that was comparable to Rinpoche from Mean Temple. They were terrifying. Moreover, the 8 of them had been together for 40 to 50 years. Their hearts were connected, and they knew how to practice formations. Moreover, with the Million Killer's help, they would be able to put up a fight even if they were to face the legendary supreme martial artist. If that's the case, I hope that Mad Southern Yi will come soon. An old man laughed out loud. He looked calm. Just when Million Killer was going to speak, a loud thud came from outside the room. It was as if a meteorite had fallen. At that moment, more than 10 people, including Million Killer, stood up at the same time. Their expressions were serious as they stared at the sky. They saw 2 silhouettes standing proudly between heaven and earth. One of them was dressed in black, while the other was dressed in white. An extremely arrogant voice shook the entire place. It was as vast and deep as 10,000 horses galloping. I, Mad Southern Yi, am here to destroy the Martial Alliance today. Come and accept your death. Martial Alliance's dogs. P.S. There's one more chapter in the 4th chapter. The climax isn't easy to write. Please wait patiently. There will be no shortage of updates.